Welcome, everybody, to another episode of IncCast, recorded live here at Walker Design Studios, the official home for Fanboys Incorporated. I'm calling this the Team Up Indie episode of IncCast. I am joined by a special guest, another Capeless Crusader. This seems to be a trend when a fanboy and a Capeless Crusader join forces. And from what I hear on the internet, it's been a collaboration that people have been wanting. So let's get right into this and introduce my special guest, Mr. Mike Sands. You might know him from Geek Girls, Nerd Boys, and Tower Sour Podcast. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon. I am doing well. Thank you for having me on. I had no idea that the streets were clamoring for the DW Mike Sands collaboration, but here we are.
Yeah, I guess is this the team up everybody wanted. Now, would it be a Marvel team up, a DC, an Image? What book would we be in?
This feels more like, to me, a Image crossover where it's like Savage Dragon and Spawn, something that's so different, yet it was like, oh, this does feel right now that it's happening.
Nice, nice. I'll take that. I'll take that, man. I'll take that.
Yeah, and it's good. How long have I been with Capeless? I've probably 4 months now, so it's good to finally get on the Fanboys Inc. network.
Nice, yeah. We've been talking about that when you were on Geek Girls Nerd Boys. You know, doing a toy discussion with Mr. Joe Nubb.
That's right. That's right. I remember I got shut down on that. They were like, yeah, we'll talk about that on another podcast, perhaps.
Yeah. If people are wondering, Mr. Joe Nubb is not with us today. He is on a secret mission in Philly, so S.H.I.E.L.D. has taken him away for a special mission for the weekend. But don't worry, guys. We'll be together this Saturday, which is a great day in the nation. It's Free Comic Book Day, May 3rd, and we're going to be at the Comic Depot just inside Saratoga Springs at 514 Broadway to meet all your fanboy needs. And we're going to be podcasting live there throughout the day with some great guests there. Paul Harding, great toy sculptor and friend, artist Matthew Dow-Smith, and artist-illustrator Richard Clark will be there. We'll be doing live podcast interviews, trivia contests with swag. Jarvis just texted me last night, and I get another gift package from Marvel. Should be here tomorrow or Friday, so you guys will be able to reap the benefits of some Marvel swag. Mike, what are you going to be doing for Free Comic Book Day?
I'm going to be showing up early like every good nerd should, lining up and getting all the good stuff, because last weekend was another nerd day for me, National Record Store Day.
Oh, yeah.
I showed up a mere hour after the doors had opened, and everything was gone except for about $100 worth of stuff. So I at least got $100 worth of stuff, but that's not going to happen to me this time with all the good exclusive free stuff, because there's going to be more kids and stuff at the comic book day than there will be, the older bearded hipsters that were there at Record Store Day who was buying me out.
And it's okay to hip check a all bearded hipster. It's not okay to hip check a 5-year-old.
It is totally not cool to brush a kid out of the way.
Now, Record Day, vinyl? Are we talking vinyl?
Absolutely. Vinyl records, 12-inch LPs, 45 singles. You got an A-side and a B-side, but they're just one song. But these records, you buy them for a 45, you buy it for like $8. It'll resell immediately same day for $20 on eBay, because Record Store Day releases are numbered, exclusive, one day, once a year record events. You don't get them anywhere else, and if you find them in a store, they are marked up like crazy.
I miss vinyl, man. I don't care what anybody says. I love vinyl.
I look to my left, and I'm looking at about 2,500 of them. I'm a record collector and a former DJ performer myself, so yes, I appreciate the vinyl.
Nice. You know what I miss most about the vinyl, and I think we might even have talked about this a little bit on a pod's past, is the artwork. I thought that, for me, being an artist, the artwork on a CD, it just doesn't represent well. On a big vinyl cardboard sleeve, looks so well. I remember back in the day we had Yes covers and some of the Police covers. Obviously, your Kiss,
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, the artwork was amazing. I would buy vinyl, not even because of the artist, because of the artwork. And I know a lot of collectors were doing that, back, now that I'm dating myself, back in the 70s and so on, just to collect the great, awesome artwork that they had on those covers.
Well, I started collecting through a network of musicians who primarily focused in the hip-hop genre, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
That was based in actual beats, not the rapping, I would listen to their tips, like, how do you buy your records and find these amazing samples to make rap music out of? And their answer is usually, if the album artwork looks cool, I'm gonna buy it.
Oh, very cool.
No notion of who the musician is, what the music is, came out. It's like if there's it's called Sun Gazer or Sun Bather, whatever the girl from Jefferson Airship did after Airplane did after her project with Jefferson. It's like a baby being held up to the sun coming out of the ocean.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I was like, I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna buy that right now.
Nice, nice.
So
I missed the
I
vinyl.
take the same. Yeah, and I take the same philosophy to comic books, though. When I first started reading comics 2.5 years ago for the first time since I was a kid, I just took that same instinct and was like, what looks cool on the covers of these books? Narrow it down from there.
You know, so you started collecting back up about 2 years ago. Ooh, I think
very seriously.
you're buffering a little bit there, Mr. Sands.
I heard it happen myself.
Ah. Yeah, I got back into comics about 2 years ago too. Tell me why, what got you back in?
Randomly, I decided to stop into a comic book store and see just like what was going on, because somebody had told me that Image Comics was like really good. And like anyone who knew Image Comics starting back in the day when they first started, my reaction was, ha ha ha, you must be kidding, right? You mean like the same people who brought us all of those misfires from the early 90s. And so I walk into the store and I picked up, you're going to laugh, Saga, Fatale, and Manhattan Projects.
You picked up three of their best books.
Yeah, so I get these books and I'm like, oh my god, comics are so good again. Holy crap. And I came back to the store, I bought up all the back issues that I'd missed out on, I got caught up, and now I'm at, I think, 25 titles that I buy over the period of a couple months, depending on the release schedule.
Nice, very cool. So, and no, you don't dabble in the mainstream, Marvel or DC?
I do.
Okay.
As far as Marvel goes, they get me on their X-Men books.
Yeah.
I read everything except for Amazing X-Men and the Brian Wood self-titled X-Men. I dropped those. It wasn't hitting for me, those two titles, but Uncanny, All New X-Men, basically I'm addicted to those.
Yeah, All New X-Men's my #1 pick each month. I love All New X-Men.
It is so. It felt like it was going to be a gimmick, but then it succeeds so well in being like this mirror to be held up to the entire canon of the X-Men that it's just week to week, month to month. It's so good.
And once again, with Marvel's time travel and their mind swap, which is usually, they're doing a real good job with this, and I'm loving to. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with now. You have past and present X-Men together. Possible future X-Men coming back. Professor X's son is part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants now. So I love how they're making that twist. Now we got young Cyclops hanging out with the Starjammers and his dad. I love all that. It's that back in the 80s and early 90s fun book just to open up, and it's a galactic adventure on 1 month, and then it's you're back on could be on asteroid M, you could be on wherever, and it's just a fun read without so much serious aspects in the background.
Totally. Yeah, and no more crazy Magneto from the 90s either.
Yeah, no shit. Everybody, we are live tweeting as well, so tweet us your questions if you have any questions for Mike Sands or myself. Tweet us over at Fanboys Inc. Mike, we had Batman Week last week here on the Fanboys Incorporated Network, so we missed out on some news. So I wanted to, since having you on, I wanted to pick your brain on some of the news topics that have been surfacing around the last week. Number one, Mr. Singer. What is going on?
Oh boy.
Can we say perv? Can we say he did it? Can we say no? What are your thoughts on this?
before I say anything, I would like to say that the views of Mike Sains represent solely Mike Sains and not the views of Capeless Crusader or Fanboys Incorporated. What in the fuck is going on with Bryan Singer? It's not. This isn't the first time that these kind of things have boiled up about him. Now, I will say, to his fairness, just 5 minutes ago, I was checking on, like, who are the people behind these allegations, and not only who is the guy, but who is representing him. So I looked at the lawyer, and it turns out that he was suspended or almost was suspended for, ethics misconduct. And
how appropriate. Mr. Sands, I think we lost you, sir. Oh, well, we just lost Mr. Sands while he was on that rant. Let's get Mr. Sands back here. While we're trying to get him back, he was just talking about Bryan Singer and the allegations of him taking a minor across state lines. Let's see if we can get him back here. Mr. Sands, welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So we were just talking about his shady lawyer, assuming.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He was suspended for conduct involving dishonesty, is the headline from The Hollywood Reporter. His name is Jeff Herman, the attorney for the man suing the X-Men director. And it sounds to me like this lawyer is also a guy who will file these juicy, headline-laden charges just to get his name out as a lawyer and his client's name out, and that's sort of what he provides as a service.
So kind of like an ambulance chaser. This is a cash grab, and it's a civil suit, not a criminal suit.
Exactly. Well, but that's because the statute of limitations had been up for so long. The man who is accusing Bryan Singer is a fully grown person, and is saying this happened when he was much younger, and I think you only have 7 years to make a claim.
This is true. Statute of limitations for criminal cases is 7 years. Now, he was 16 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Crossing state lines, accusations of drugging him. Now, you said before, this is not the first time things have come up about Singer.
Yeah, in his younger days, and it seems like he's always been associated very strangely with the name Paul Mitchell. If you have hair or hair products, you're familiar with that name. And yeah, apparently the word on the street and a lot of these tattler kind of scandal rags is that he has these mansion sex parties and is well known for it. And Bryan Singer might, let's say he does show up there in real life and just has a thing. That's his business. He goes to a Weird Eyes Wide Shut party. That's his business. But there's these allegations that maybe there's minors involved and they're feeding these kids drugs, and it's not that uncommon in Hollywood for such things to happen. It's just that Bryan Singer's also like the director of Superman Returns and major film franchises that are supposed to appeal to kids. I mean, it's everybody, like Roman Polanski can't help but come up in these discussions.
Yeah, exactly.
Roman Polanski made Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby. He did not make X-Men and Superman. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are totally different wheelhouse. Like,
I mean, can we say Woody Allen?
Yes, absolutely. He's obviously in the current. It seems like, what is it with Hollywood in these weird tastes? Like, I got no problem if you like young people, but there is legally and literally and morally a line in the sand which you cannot cross.
Well, it depends on what state you're in. Now let's talk about Alabama.
yeah, that age of consent in the Commonwealth gets really tricky.
And I don't think it's Hollywood. I think we see it because it's Hollywood, but this is happening. This could be happening 2 doors down from from the headquarters, but because they're Hollywood, they're getting exposed.
Absolutely. And the higher you go with places of power, and I say this on my own show all the time, the higher you go in a position of power anywhere, in an education institute, in a religious institute, entertainment, it's all the same. You're going to have some people with some strange proclivities and interesting appetites, and it's just because they're powerful that does something to somebody, and you have access to that kind of thing. And let's say like you never cross that line, people are still able to make these accusations, and I feel like it's this is part of a result of this immediate society in which we live in. Like, we don't know that any of this is true or false, but Bryan Singer has certainly been judged by me and everyone else in the community because it's just hard to give this dude a pass on these kind of allegations.
True, since his past record, he's like the young Hugh Hefner, but who knows what happens behind in the grotto. Now, what do we think is going to happen with? Now, this is not going to affect the movie. I mean, are people going to be so outraged that they're not going to go see this?
Absolutely not, man.
Yeah.
If Paul Walker's death doesn't stop Fast and Furious, this isn't going to stop the X-Men.
Yeah,
people have a short-term memory, and we move on.
Or they're going to be, like I've always said, bad PR at times is better than no PR at all. I mean, this is not that this is a publicity stunt by any means, but it's in the news, and anytime you say Singer, you say Days of Future Past, it's in the news.
And it's funny. It's like I said to you the other day about a similar issue. Whenever somebody gets bad press, all I can think in my selfish mind is, I wish I got some press.
Yeah, right. What I'm not taking a minor across state lines to get bad press for Fanboys Incorporated.
I'm not going to go that far to get what I need. But then again, if I was making $500 million, it might not be any sweat off my back if somebody was making up allegations like that.
Yeah, hey, I'll just call up some people. I'll be a fake person and talk about myself. Be like, hey, yeah, this is what I did. Check him out.
Just make some stuff up yourself.
Yeah. Well, you know how the rumor mills get, man. Yeah, I could put something on Fanboys Incorporated, and it could be juicy as hell, and all of a sudden, it's all over the place. It's instantaneous.
Yeah.
One of the best things about the internet. I mean, it's true, right? If it's on the internet, it's true.
It must be.
So I think he'll be fine. I think Days of Future Past. Now we've seen obviously Fox, anything to do with Marvel, comic book related movies, really pushing way in advance teasers and images and stuff. So and it gets hard throughout for ourselves and even with K Plus Crusader to put out some concrete news. There's a lot of rumor mills. There's a lot of stuff going on. But with this Fox movie, I think this could be the one that kind of pulls Fox out of the muck. I mean, all their X-Men movies have been okay. The First Class was better than the previous ones, not that great. Just because I'm a traditionalist in a way. When you say First Class and you show the first X-Men, I don't need Angel and when Emma Frost in there. That's not what I see as the original X-Men,
Right.
But Days of Future Past, this could definitely be the movie that puts the X-Men on the map, I think. I mean, after and they're the only franchise that we talked about this a little while ago. They're the only franchise that have kept the same actors in, what do we say, 20 years? They've kept,
Yes, this is very true, to their credit. And every movie Hugh Jackman does for them is now like, he's like the Rolling Stones, where he's like, well, this is my farewell tour, this is my last Wolverine movie.
He's the Michael Jordan of movies.
It's like, when are you going to retire the role? Because we are getting to that point now where the ageless Wolverine is in fact clearly visually aging.
So he'll definitely grow into Old Man Logan.
Oh my God! If we can get Old Man Logan, there's so many studio issues that need to happen. But oh my gosh, that's the best story that they've been sitting on, and it needs to happen.
It'll never happen because the Hulk's in that, and Marvel owns the Hulk. So I mean, but who knows? What about speaking of that, Amazing Spider-Man 2 comes out on Thursday, tomorrow. Some places tonight at midnight. A hint of an X-Men clip at the end, and now there's these rumors that we could see a Spider-Man and X-Men team up. What do you think of that? What's gonna happen with that?
I think that that is a bit of disinformation, and that is a bit of the internet's ability to misconstrue some, and it's not their fault, because in this particular case it is very, very muddled. There were two studios, I think it was Fox and Sony, and Mark Webb, the director of Spider-Man, was going to be used for the studio who has X-Men. So as part of the agreement to get a hold of Mark Webb as a director, they agreed to show a teaser trailer at the end of Spider-Man for a property that the film studio who owns Spider-Man has nothing to do with.
Mhm.
It's sort of like, we'll do this for you if you promote our stuff on your dime. And I could see, because the April Fool's joke that really got me was when they announced the fake story that Midtown put out that Sony had released Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
X-Men were going back to Marvel. I was like, oh my god! And then it turned out to be false. This is another situation where that's gonna break a lot of people's hearts, because there's not gonna be X-Men and Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man all on the same screen. It's just, there's too much money to be lost.
Oh, by far. But at the same time, couldn't we say there's too much money to be had? I mean, if these studios played together, let's say, I mean, right now you have Marvel and Disney, the big boys. Now you have
Mhm.
Fox and Sony.
Mhm.
Now, I would see Fox and Sony putting, putting things aside, put their pride aside, and teaming up. Now, even though they're Marvel properties per se, because Marvel's leasing those properties, the Fox and Sony don't own them; they're on a lease,
Mhm.
with no option to buy. I guess. I mean, they have to put out the movies within a set amount of time to keep
That's right.
keep these licenses.
Yes.
If Fox and Sony teamed up and did this, they could be like a major issue for Marvel and Disney. This could put them on the map. This could really do, and this is the team up for Marvel, like Batman versus Superman is a team up for DC.
Now, I agree with that on so many levels, but what gets complicated is the back end stuff. How do you chop up the profits, as far as, because you're going to have merchandising, you're going to
Correct.
want to have theme park stuff,
Yep.
T-shirts. How do you divvy that money up? Are people going to be willing to take the lesser percentage, or is it going to be a thing where it's like Steve McQueen and Paul Newman in the Towering Inferno, where you have to have their credit on screen, but one is slightly higher and the other is slightly lower? Depending on which one is better to you, it's all the same. Like, is it going to really get down to that level of minutia and detail? And are there enough egos willing to be put aside at those studios to have that? Because us as fanboys and regular people, let's say, um, can see the sense that that makes, and your argument is totally valid, and I would, like, in a perfect world, I am so down for that, but I just see these lizard-scaled executives,
Oh yeah.
in a back room going, but the Fantastic Four is better than,
Right. Right. No, I understand that completely.
so I don't think that I am optimistic enough to see that bright day. But that was what I said about the future of marijuana legalization and having a black president when I was a freshman in high school. So what the hell do I know?
Yeah, exactly. I think in the bigger scheme of things, in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm putting this out there now, my superior speculation, and in 15 years, when we're still here, you can say you heard it here first by DW. Marvel's going to take that crap back. Marvel's going to find a way to get those properties back. If not for Spider-Man, I'm saying Fantastic Four. They've already got Daredevil back, and they had to make a deal with that, but I think they're going to bring those characters back home down the road. I really do, at least in the next 15 years.
You know what, though? I think Fantastic Four might be the first one to go. What? Let's posit this hypothetical. What if the Fantastic Four reboot is as bad as the other Fantastic Four reboot? And what if that studio just says, you know what? We're just going to wash our hands of this. We cannot get this franchise right no matter what we do. So just take it back. I think more than Spider-Man, more than the X-Men, or any other rogue franchise that Marvel has floating around out there, they are the best candidate to get kicked back to them simply because no one knows how to do it right.
And I agree with you. And the story fold, I mean, obviously X-Men is a succeeding franchise no matter how you look at the numbers. I mean, 20 years, they're one of the longest franchise running with the same actors. Whether or not they gross a lot at the box office, they still seem to be successful, and they're growing. Fantastic Four, coming home to Marvel, if that's a possibility. Can we see Avengers? You finally get Galactus. Now we finally get the Skrulls instead of these stupid Chitauri. I mean, there's so many possibilities with that franchise, and I think more so than what Spider-Man and possibly the X-Men have to offer for them. So you may be correct on that. And the one thing that I don't agree on with you is the fact that it's a losing franchise and they won't give it up. I don't think they will. I think they will keep hammering that out as best and try, because they're seeing the green. They're seeing the success of what Marvel's doing, what Fox is doing, what Sony's doing, or what Sony's doing as far as the characters. And it goes to show, too, because, I mean, that's where the pride and that's where the egos of the suits come into play, going, all right, we'll crack it again. We'll use it as a tax write-off. Well, we're going to crack it again in another 5 years. Well, we're going to crack it again. We can't lose this property, and we're going to make it a good property. Why I say that is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. One of the lowest rated episodes was the week after Captain America, and it had a Cap tie-in. Now, if this was any other show, this should have been canceled, but it's guaranteed for a second season, and its ratings are mediocre at best. So if this was not a Marvel Disney property, the show would have been off the air. If they didn't have the ties with ABC that they do, the show would have been off the air. So I really do feel that the suits, and I agree with you in the back end, there's an ego. There's somebody going, oh, yeah, we're going to, talking like with a light over everybody else's head, going, we're going to make money. This is going to happen. So what? With an evil laugh as he's rubbing his hands together, and Snidely Whiplash mustache. But I think that's the problem in any of these movies, is that the suits don't seem to understand really what's going on. Granted, yes, Avengers made a shit ton of money and it did very well, but give us fanboys just a little bit more. Stay a little bit truer. I know we're not the ticket holders. I know we aren't the ones that give them majority of their money, but give us something. I mean, without us buying those books and keeping them going for years, you wouldn't even have any of these stories or these characters per se.
I totally agree. And that's something that I talked about, I think, on the very first episode of the Tower of Sorrow, where I started to allow myself to get nerdy on the show. I talked about that, where these kids today, they imagine a world where you were born, where there were already the best superhero movies ever. You already have the Avengers, you already have the X-Men. When I was growing up, Wizard Comics was casting Wolverine with Danzig.
Yeah, okay? I remember that. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I was like, dude, that would be so awesome. Danzig as Wolverine, that'd be amazing. And that was the reality we lived in for so long. Yep. And they had to hit, and they had to miss, and they had to miss and miss and miss and miss with their comic book movies until they finally got the technology to get this thing right. And these kids, they don't know what it's like to only get the books, right, to know the canon. This is the movie where spoiler for Spider-Man 2, possibly, where Mary Jane, or where the blonde-haired girl is going to die. Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane's going to come around. It's like, some of these kids might not even know that. That's so crazy.
And you bring that up. Now, that's a good point. Now, and we've talked about this on this podcast, do you think the movies generate back to the comic book stores? Now that you've brought that up, going, well, these kids didn't even grow up with Gwen Stacy. They don't even really know the canon. They don't, they only know what they've seen in the movies. Do you feel that the movies are helping our local retailers?
That is a hard question, and it sort of ties into what I'm doing at Capeless and what I'm hoping to see at Free Comic Book Day. I always equate Free Comic Book Day to the little kid version of the gym the day after New Year's, where all the parents are like, we're going to go to the comic book store and we're going to get you these books, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get you reading. And then I'm there every week, and you don't see the kids coming in. You don't see the parents of the kids coming in. It's like this one day a year that it seems like a good idea. But the people who are buying the comics, they're our age. They're my age. They're in their late 20s, or if we're being optimistic, maybe 19 or 20. That's an early nerd as far as I'm concerned. And it's I don't know that the canon even matters to these kids. Like, I think the canon that they hold most true is what they see in animated shows. The same way I did with the X-Men.
Yeah.
I started knowing the X-Men through the animated show in the late 80s and early 90s, and then got into the comics as a result and saw the differentiations in the canon. And I think even more so today, you have that with like all the animated shows for the Spider-Man and in DC stuff, the Teen Titans, and you have a lot of choices for these kids, and they don't even need to read the comics necessarily because they like vaguely touch on parts of the canon. So I don't know. I really don't see it as something that even matters or would register in a child's mind to matter.
So it would depend on the parents then. So if
Yes.
I mean our age, I mean a lot of people our age definitely have kids, 2, 3 kids that and our reading age. So it really falls back on the parents going, hey, if you like that movie, let's go check out a comic book.
Sure, absolutely. The video that I recommend to everybody on YouTube is the little girl who knows more Marvel knowledge than most grown-up people, and she rallies off the best trivia facts about Marvel her dad asks her.
What? Really? I've never seen this. We got to put this on our page.
5, 6 straight minutes. Like she's like 5 years old. She knows how to say Wakanda. She knows about like the negative zone. This is amazing. This kid is a genius. And it's like the only reason this happened is because her dad brought her up on comic books the same way that a Christian would bring their child up on the Bible.
Nice. And I bet you mom's not happy about it. I want a Spider-Man doll. No, honey, they're action figures. And mom's going, no, you're going to get a Barbie. She's like, no, I want a web sling.
Yeah, and it needs to be the stuff that Peter Parker makes. He didn't organically create it out of his body. Sam Raimi got that wrong.
Yeah. We'll put that link up on our Facebook page and on the website under this podcast information because I'd like to see that video. And you bring up some valid points. We know from Darren from the Comic Depot. He says it's not a long-lasting relationship. When a movie comes out, he'll get a quick hit 2 or 3 days or maybe the week after for the movie. Mom and dads, maybe new-time fans, oh, we like the movie. Well, there's that comic book shop we just drove by, and then going and buying a couple impulses. Very rarely, maybe 1 out of 7, 1 out of 8 keep coming back. So it does give you that quick, impulse buy, but long-lasting. The effects aren't there. Either way, it's as the culture overall. I think movies and all this media, and I don't want to say overload, but increasing on TV shows and movies is doing quite well for our culture. I feel maybe to a point we might be burning too hot too quick. The 12 TV shows coming out by 2016. Marvel's got already scheduled up to 2017 to 2018. Movies going nuts. DC's got 9 projects not affiliated with Justice League in the works. For me, old school, I like the mystique. I mean, I don't want to wait 3 years, but at the same time, there's something to be said about waiting 3 to 4 years for a new movie to coming out to build the hype, to get that mystique. Disney's putting out a Marvel movie, 2 Marvel movies every year until 2017, I believe. Disney's doing Star Wars 7, 8, 9 back-to-back every year starting in 2016. Part of me is like, wow, that's a little too much, too quick. I like the mystique. Part of me doesn't want to wait, but the other part of me is like, that's part of the fun of waiting and seeing what the hell's going to happen.
You know what? I cannot agree with you more. And it's so funny because, we come from a different generation. Like, let's say the Michael Keaton Batman. The first one came out, and there were some years that went by before that second Batman came out. And I remember it was like, wait a minute, what? There's going to be another one? Like, the idea of a sequel didn't even really cross my mind until the announcement was made. And then it was like this huge deal. But look, what you're talking about now, this oversaturation and this schedule of $100 million movie after $200 and $300 million movie after another, on these huge budgets, and they're expected to make this gigantic return one after the other. The only thing that I can compare that to in the entertainment industry is what happened with the film industry in the late 60s and the early 70s, where these big, bloated films kept coming out, like these huge musicals nobody wanted to see, and then like it imploded, and from there you got the quiet indie filmmaker revolution of the 1970s.
Mhm.
You know, or like the late 60s, really, like starting with Bonnie and Clyde, moving forward on the timeline in film history. Like those small films overtook these giant bloated big budget films, and if comic books want to survive that model, they need to do that to their very own films. Marvel and DC both need to pick a couple properties that can be small, little films that you can make on a hairstring budget that you don't need to make $1 billion on every single time. Like, even if there wasn't a giant product campaign, would that be the end of the world for Disney?
No, couldn't we say the Netflix deal is kind of what they're doing?
Yes and no, because that's a long-form television show. Those episodes are still going to cost $1 million, $2 million an
That's
episode.
true. But I mean, as far as CGI budget stuff like that, the characters used don't really need that high budget. But I see what you're saying.
But I think in a way, yes, because when you hit it with that smaller, the downplayed aspect where there's not like the huge, like $100 million shots and stuff, you can have a little more room for failure. You can have the right for it to be like a bad episode or 2 or 3, and you don't have to say, well, I mean, this is this huge, big budget thing, and this sucked. Why are we doing this? Like that. If you can avoid doing that and continue to put out your product in a way that like is marketable, you're avoiding that kind of crisis.
So avoid Green Lantern. Don't ever do another Green Lantern.
No, make that happen never again.
We are tweeting, and I got a question here, kind of going back to Free Comic Book Day. This is Mr. Sean Murphy. He asks, how do you feel about the retailers having to pay for free books, and have you seen this year's list? As far as I'm concerned, part of me is like, yeah, that kind of sucks. But at the same time, remember, these companies are in it to they have to make money. Now, if they didn't charge these retailers, do you know how many books each retailer gets and how many retailers? This is nationwide. I don't think any company can afford a deficit like that. I do know the cost of the books. I'm not going to relay that on public knowledge. They're very inexpensive compared to what you have to usually pay for. Retailers, yeah, they can buy as much as they want, as little as they want, just like any other week. But remember, I mean, when you do have Free Comic Book Day, minus the people that go for the free buffet, you'll get impulse buys, and you're going to get more sales. That's just like any other business. You do a happy hour special, you don't make the money off the drinks. You know what? You make it off the food, or you make it up in the quantity of drinks people buy. That's where you're going to make it. That's where it's going to be with Free Comic Book Day. So no, I don't really have a problem with the companies charging the retailers. What do you think, Mike?
Well, you also have to remember, if you look at the list of comics that do come out every Free Comic Book Day, 90% are small press, independent publishers. They're not your Marvels. Marvel put out, what, the Infinity teaser last year? And that was it. Everything else...
I think DC put out 2, and that was it.
Yeah, you get small press stuff. Yeah, last year it was Superman Unchained and their big event book. I forgot what it was. But either way, these companies would basically bury themselves if they gave this all away for free, even once a year. That would be enough to put away some of these publishers. Where I think retailers get a bum rap is the variant game, the covers. Yeah. And like retailer incentives, if you want to get the lithographs, if you want to get the promo swag for Original Sin, you got to buy this many books. That's where they get burned, I think.
Yeah, I believe. And is that really an incentive?
No, it's not. It's absolutely not, except for the lithographs. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, if you have Marvel lithographs by Scotty Young that you do not want, send them to Mike Sains. Hit me up on Twitter.
The variants... thank you to Image in the 90s for giving us that whole mess of crap. you know, Joe's favorite, the chromium embossed covers and all
Oh
the
my gosh.
gatefolds. They were great in the 90s because it's the first time we've seen them. But now, right now, it's New Comic Book Day today. Kind of a great segue to get into this. Amazing Spider-Man #1 comes out. Midtown Comics has got 13 variant covers. I'm like, all right, people. And yes, they start now. You can get your regular cover for $3.99. You can get another variant for $3.99, and then it jumps to $8.99, $17.99, $21.99, $59.99, $125.99, 200 and people. Really, it's cool. Yes, the problem I have, not necessarily with the pricing. Some of these variants aren't cool. It's like, why am I spending 125? Don't get me wrong, Scotty Youngs are cute. They're awesome. You know, J. Scott Campbell's are awesome because he's doing a Midtown variant, 3 tie-ins. Awesome. You can buy them for $10.99, but there's no collectability. You're pumping out so many of these variants at this point that as a collector, you're never, yes, you probably will never sell it if you're spending it for $200, but I guarantee you 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, that box is going to be worth less than half of what you paid for it. And for a retailer to buy 300 more $3.99 books to get that one variant, it's not worth it. And be a smart shopper. It's like that lady at the grocery store who's got coupons. She knows how to coupon it. You got to be the same way. I mean, if you really want it, then go for it. But really wait. That this instant gratification that we see on eBay for these books that come out, like, you know, some of the Saga is one of them. I mean, great selling for a lot. Sold for a lot because it sold out 2 weeks later. You can wait a month or two. Now, yes, it's going to be more expensive than the cover, but the price drops. Wait for that. Stop having this instant gratification need. Wait a while. There's still going to be out there. It's not like Saga's going to ever fall off the face of the earth. There will be mint copies. There will be 9.8s. There will be 9.4s if you want CGC. There will be near mint copies. Wait a little while. Be smart about what you're doing. I mean, that's I think with our society, and that's why we do well as Fanboys Inc. and with the news that we put out. Same with Capeless Crusader. Everybody wants this push it now button. You know, they want this instant gratification. But when it comes to purchasing some things, do not click the buy it now on eBay. I have to listen to my own advice, by the way, because I do that for some things. But be wary of what you buy. Back off a little bit. It's not like these things are going to totally disappear. And these variants, and I agree with you, Mike, the retailers, they get shafted. I mean, to a point, why do I want 100 extra Spider-Man #1s? Wow, you know, at $3.99, I know what the cost is. And I got this one variant that, you know, I'm selling for $150. Well, guess what? I'm holding on to the variant for $150 because it won't sell, and now I still have 100 $3.99 books that won't sell. And even if I sold the variant for $150, it ain't going to cover my cost of the 100 books I have sitting here. It's kind of pointless.
I could not agree more. And as soon as I found out that was the system, it was truly a head scratcher from a consumer standpoint. Because you know, you always every has that like, oh, I'm gonna own my own comics or something like that, and then you find out like the realities of what that entails.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no! I am so happy that someone else thought that was what they wanted.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're just buffering a little bit there, Mr. Sands. Talking about New Comic Book Day, Peter Parker's back. We saw it in Superior Spider-Man 31. He came back last month, last week. Last 2 weeks, and now he's back in the Marvel U. I may get killed for this. I may have death threats just like Dan Slott did, but I'm sad to see Doc Ock go. I have to say that the Superior Spider-Man run was probably one of the better runs to date, no matter what character it is. I mean, I do love my all-new X-Men, but I finally enjoyed a mind swap that Marvel has done, and he's done correctly. It's just done very well. I'd like to see what happens with Doc Ock. We know that in the Spider U, we're going to have Spider Universe in July, I think. July or November, I believe.
Yeah.
With every Spider-Man coming out, my fave is coming back. He's getting his own book, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hare. We're going to see Spider-Man that we've never seen before. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm also weary, just coming from a marketing standpoint. Is this going to be, you know, all fluff? But Slot's writing it, and I'm been really happy with it. Once again, this book's probably going to sell out. I'm sure it will, and I'm not sure if the cover price is still $3.99 or if they jumped it up to $5.99. I am picking it up. I'm going to pick it up because I am part of the Superior Spider-Man line. But at the same time, I pick up books not for the collectability per se, because I know this isn't going to be worth a ton 20 years down the road. It may be. It probably won't. But to give to our fans what I think about it, what's going to happen. I am a Spider-Man guy, so I think it's going to be something exciting to see what happens. Like I said, I do want to know Doc Ock's mind is in limbo, and they haven't even touched on it in issue 3031, or I don't know if they're going to touch on this one. So we'll see. Now, I know, Mike, you're not a full mainstream guy. You are like the indie guy, and really have delved, obviously, starting your collection 2 years ago with Image. We have a book that also comes out today for New Comic Book Day, Black Science #6. Let's talk a little bit about that with our listener, to tell our listeners a little bit about this and why you like this book. I think it's been on my weekly, it was on my pick 3 weeks ago, I think. I just got into it. Loving the book.
Yeah, I don't know how everybody feels about science fiction around here, but that's one of my favorite genres to read. And this is a Rick Remender book for the Marvel heads. He's writing Uncanny Avengers right now. He wrote
every Avengers book right now.
Yeah, Captain America. He's currently writing. Winter Soldier: The Bitter March. Yep. I mean, he's everywhere with Marvel right now. But this is his like pulp science fiction, time stream gone totally wrong. Collaboration with artist Matteo Scalera, who also works on Dead Body Road with Justin Jordan on Image Comics. I gotta say, it is one of the more exhilarating comic books. The first issue, if you haven't read it, is like the downslope of a roller coaster for the entire book. And it is so fun. It's really dark, and there's moments of real bummer level sadness where it's like, oh man.
But at the same time, full is it sad to say or bad to say that I'm enjoying those down moments?
Oh no, not at all. It's because it's like, I equate this book to like sci-fi Breaking Bad, not in the level of quality yet. Let's not go crazy with that comparison. Right. But in the way that Breaking Bad is truly a roller coaster television show.
Addicting, as the meth he sells.
It's up, it's down, and in both moments, it is very intense. And this book is executed in the same way. The dialogue isn't perfect. There are moments where you can see some flaws in the storytelling execution, but that never affects how much I enjoy that book.
I think. Go ahead.
It got a little bit less attention than it deserved when it came to the award season this year, the Eisner nominations. But that could be because it's such a fresh. We're only 6 issues in, so I can't really begrudge the Academy, so to speak.
For me, Matteo Scalera, the artist, and Dean White, who does the painted art. That's what got me. How I got into this book was Darren from the Comic Depot had said, hey, have you checked out any indie? And I'm like, no, I've been really mainstream, and I'm like, my pull list is like $30, $40 a week. I can't put something else on my list. He's like, here, and gave me a copy of #1. He goes, here, take it home. I'm like, what? He's like, it's yours. Just take it home. You're gonna enjoy this.
Okay. That's okay. That level of enthusiasm. You haven't been to the store yet today, I gather.
No.
Southern Bastards #1 by Jason Aaron and Jason Latour, the guy who was writing Wolverine and the X-Men, Thor, the God of Thunder. Him and artist Jason Latour are putting out the first issue of Southern Bastards today, and it is a very familiar story of a man who has to come back to his small town home. Has to face his old demons with the people he used to know in his life and the checkered history that his family and those people share together. It is very, very gritty Southern Gothic crime noir stuff that establishes itself in the first frame. And it is so good because I spent a lot of years in the South. I'm from Virginia, but I spent many years in the Deep South, and there isn't a false note in this book. I mean, like The Walking Dead, I love that show, but there are so many false Southern moments all throughout each episode, up to and including the accents, the dialects, how people would react to something. That's not how Southern people act.
Well, first off, Mike, let's half the actors are all English, so let's give them a break on their accents because they don't sound English. Let's one step at a time. The Southern drawl will come next season, maybe.
Rich has had some time to adjust.
Yeah, no shit. Well, there's one. I guess we'll call that the Mike Sands soft pick. You go right there.
Absolutely. Well, that's my major for this week. I read that because one of our reviewers, Dave Busing at Capeless,
just put that out the other day, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely. Yesterday, and his review was so high that I thought, wow, I really need to keep my eye out on this. Read the review copy because I'm the editor, and I was like, oh, I'm going to spend my money on this today, and I ran out and bought it.
Well, we'll do that. And now, you know what? You probably have got me hooked as well. Getting back into the Black Science, for me, as you are too a little bit, that if it's the cover, like I said, Darren gave it to me, and I'm like, wow, I was struck by the cover. For me as an artist, like issue 4 for me, it's got, if you look at it, it's very retro. The painted styles, retro, almost like the old ads. And no, I wasn't reading Playboy when I was 12. Well, maybe. But some of those retro cigarette ads and liquor ads that were painted, that's what got me on issue 4. If you haven't picked up yet, it is you're looking through the fourth wall. You're looking at a woman. She's facing her back is to you with a white bikini holding a liquor bottle and a guy smoking a cigarette casually on the bed, clothes on the floor and whatnot. That got me. Not because of the chick's ass, but the fact of just the style and what is going on with this book, as far as the interior. Once you flip the page, it's Johnny Quest. It's Doc Savage back from the 70s. It's that painted noir. It's that really cool retro feel. And I overlook some of the dialogue mistakes or the strength of the dialogue, because the panel selections that he's doing, that Matteo is doing, is awesome. His splash pages are awesome. The detail is in the right spots. It's not over-detailed. There's not too many lines. They are right where they should be as far as I'm concerned, and that's what drives me for this book. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story's great. I love the story. But art-wise, just amazing. I love the retro and the darkness of the book. Even in the brightest moment of a situation, there's still that hint of grittiness and darkness that you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen on the next page? And you see that in the panels.
Yeah, and not just that, that book is so action-packed that there's plenty of opportunities to see, like, an artist might slip up with the way they convey motion or forward momentum, but Matteo Scalera he's killing this book so hard. There's no flaws to what he's doing right now in that book. There's just nothing wrong.
Can you give our listeners a quick synopsis of this book? So if they wanted to pick it up, I will tell you, issue 1 is in reprint, issue 2 is in reprint. I want to say even issue 3 is on a second printing. So if you want to go and get it at your local shop after you listen to this podcast, do it. But Mike, can you give them just a brief synopsis of the story without spoiling it too much?
Yeah, if I had to give you the, what I guess you call it the elevator pitch, first issue, without giving anything away in the other issues, like what gets you on board for this, it's a science team who has delved into the level of science that pretty much everybody else made an agreement not to mess with, literally called Black Science. And they have... We don't know how, we don't know what went wrong, but we are just dropped into this situation where somebody has fucked up, and they need to get back to their team and try to save some lives before they ruin the entire time stream. And from there, you follow particularly this one scientist, but then eventually the rest of his team and what they have to go through to right the wrongs that they themselves committed in that classic science fiction tone where they thought that they were doing something for the greater good, the greater benefit of all mankind, but they were so wrong, they were so foolish, they couldn't see what they could have possibly gotten wrong, and now they are having to live that reality. Or realities, depending on if you continue to read this book, you'll know what I mean.
Kind of like a Sliders, and wow, the name is escaping me. The guy who played MacGyver. What was his? No, not MacGyver. What was the time traveling show?
Oh, you talking about Quantum Leap?
Yeah, Quantum Leap. Jesus, how could I forget that? I love that show as a kid. Kind of like a Quantum Leap with little bit more grittiness.
Yes, much more pulpy. The art
Perfect
actually,
word. Perfect word.
it reminds me of the old pulp comics where a detective would be doing these violent things in this level of detail, but instead it's a guy in a spacesuit whipping around a frog's head that has an electrical tongue.
Yes, it's awesome, guys. Definitely check this out. This is going to be my my soft pick. Excuse me, soft pick for this week as well. You guys, if you've listened to pods past, I've picked it. If I'm picking it twice, it's got to be something. It's got to be worth something. It definitely go out and check it out. Like I said, issues 1, 2, and 3, I believe, are already in second printing, possibly even 4. So it is available. Ask your local retailer to go pick that up. Mike, what other indie? Since this is like the indie team up episode, what other indie? I mean, I don't want to classify The Wake as an indie, but I kind of do. I mean, it's not. It's
It
DC,
totally is.
but
It
it's
absolutely
Vertigo.
is.
Let's talk about The Wake. What do you think? I'm loving this book.
Well, I have to say, like I said in our coffee and comics roundtable this week at K Plus, I think Sean Murphy should win.
Wait a minute. Was that your pitch voice? Wait a minute. Was that? This is the weekend wrap end update with the week comics and coffee by K.
I didn't even realize I was doing it. How bad is that?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, I think Sean Murphy's art on The Wake should get him all of the awards. Anything he's nominated for, he should win. I know that's a bold statement, but it really is that good. And he got snubbed last year with Punk Rock Jesus that came out on Vertigo, a tour de force in black and white artwork. And he's brought that same level of attention and skill to a Scott Snyder book, and they are both issue to issue, knocking it out of the park. There isn't a single bad issue of that series.
I'm a couple issues behind. When I got it, I want to say, once again, I mean, I'm mainstream. I am the capes and heroes kind of guy.
Sure.
I gotta say, this insurgence of non-superhero stuff is amazing, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But not to get off topic. I picked it up because of Scott. I mean, Batman, and him and Capullo have been knocking it out of the park. I love the hints of his. He's got a dark side, man. I think he might even rival Stephen King. I mean, there's some weird shit going on in that boy's brain. He's got a dark side. He was American Vampire as well. One
of the best books.
Yeah.
Continually.
I have not read it, and I'm going to wait for trades and catch up that way. It's one of the books that I think I would rather read in a trade, and instead of trying to catch up on single issues. But The Wake. Why I picked it up is because, ironically, 3 weeks prior to that, there was a Discovery show about aqua apes, and it had me going for 45 minutes that I thought the shit was real. And come to find out at the end of the show, it was debunked or whatever. And then when I realized that the premise of this book was loosely based on that, I was like, I'm in. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do give a shit that who's writing it, but at the same time, I'm like, that TV show, of course, it's great that you're like, oh my God, this really could be real. Oh my God, this is awesome. Based on that show, I'm like, I'm in. I got to get it. I don't care who's writing it, but I got to get it. But then I saw that with Snyder, even more so. I love the premise. I love the storyline. I love that he's not writing a Capes book. I love that he's writing something totally different.
Well, if you like The Wake and Scott Snyder's work here, because who would have thought that the Merman would be so terrifying?
Yeah, right.
But be on the lookout this year for Scott Snyder and Jock. Their book is called Witches.
Witches from Image.
Yes. Oh my goodness! It looks like a nightmare scape. Just the prettiest, most watercolor, beautiful to look at nightmare that I could possibly ask for. And I am so excited for it. But
that was one of the books that that we highlighted when the announcement came out. It was like, holy shit, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to get this book.
Yeah, because Jock, as far as I'm concerned, I know this is like I hate making declarative statements when there's such a rich pool of talent, but his image of the Joker with the bat hair could be the most iconic Joker look in the last couple years. I mean, even more so than the Joker that cut his face off and stapled it back on. I think of that Joker face more than any of the other new ones. If you had if like you Google searched my brain, that'd be the first one that came up.
Good thing Greg Capullo doesn't know where you live.
But don't get me wrong, I love his work. I have the doll sitting on my desk right now. I have his wearing the janitor suit. He might come to life and kill me, Master of Puppets style.
Nice. Now that would be a movie I'd want to see. And now I'm gonna have to lock the door into my studio because I have the 7-pack of villains and just about every DC collectible, Justice League and heroes, and I even got Deathstroke. Now I'm going to be scared going, great. Now, Mike, just put that in my head that I could really get my ass kicked by these little 6-inch figures. I got to agree to a point with you. Jock's artwork is amazing. Teaming up with Scott Snyder, which is going to be a no-brainer. It's going to be a success. Once again, we're pre-picking this for you people, so start taking notes because we're going to get your pull list, if you listen to us, is going to get bigger. You know what I found interesting is that, DC is allowing Snyder to go to Image and do stuff. Remender going to Image to do stuff. It's funny how they're sidestepping and Marvel allowing them to do this. And obviously, with a few writers and artists. I think now maybe the high ups are realizing that if we say no, we could lose a cash cow.
100%. You don't want to see people buck their contracts because they're not getting the flexibility to do what they want to do. I mean, I don't know a lot of details about the way people's contracts work, but I would imagine if you had an agreement that said you're only going to work on Marvel properties as a creator, you're going to go insane. Like, that character is going to start to feel like a prison for you if you're not able to work on anything else. I mean, even Bendis, who is one of Marvel's, probably their biggest writer, even he has stuff, like powers, things like that. Like, he has to have side projects. There has to be other things that he does.
And you could see this hit two different ways. You could see Marvel thinking, all right, let's go with DC and Snyder. You could say, all right, obviously Snyder's on the best Batman book there is right now, the best-selling Batman book out of the Batman titles. He's done Swamp Thing, obviously doing Wake, doing American Vampire. Some people still might not be aware of what he does at DC, but if he moves to Image, they may pick up new readers.
I think so, but it's sort of weird, writer to writer, how you could be so prolific and so brilliant and still remain under the radar. Like, one of my recommendations for this week was going to be Mind Management, but let's focus on the writer for that book, Matt Kint. He writes for DC now under, I think it's the Adventure, Action Comics, the superhero, Superman release.
Yep.
Where he's writing for that. He also wrote for Suicide Squad. I don't know if he's the ongoing writer, but he did a couple issue runs there. And Dark Horse just picked him up for a Star Wars title. This guy, he's writing probably the most dense, involved, and literary book in the indie market right now. Mind Management is, in my opinion, the most complicated book on the shelf. And his writing is like a mystery to people. It just goes over people's heads. You don't notice his output, even when he gets these big titles on DC.
Is that a good thing?
I would say yes and no, because it's supposed to be, I hate doing this, but I kind of have analogies for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a writer who works for the big two publishing houses and then works for their own stuff, it reminds me a lot in the way that a porn star does one or two pornos, gets the hype, and then makes all their money stripping on the road doing their own thing.
Right.
You get the big showcase.
She's still freelancing.
Right. The whole world gets to see you in this big release, and then after that, you get to run free and make your own money based on that esteem. For some creators, that it just seems to not happen, and I don't know what it takes. Guys like Hickman, Jonathan Hickman, he's so good at writing these giant scale books that you almost need a guy like that. He's almost a utility guy in the way that he can make an event. But when you have a writer like Matt Kent, who he's not necessarily like a, but he can write really heartfelt stuff and really get to the meat and the heart and soul of a character, and that can fly by the wayside because that's not necessarily the most marketable approach to selling units.
No, but you might be covering a small niche. It might be their way of saying, all right, we have this niche, we have the overall escapism group, but then you give them him. It might be that small niche that they need to fill. I mean, I don't know how small or big. I'm just speculating here that might be something. And obviously, he must be doing okay. He's writing 3 books.
Right, yeah, he's definitely getting a lot of work. That's one thing you can say, writer to writer, especially when they're only writing one book, and then you start to see them pop up over at DC or over at Marvel. Sometimes it's like you start at the big publisher and then you branch out, or you're doing your own thing and then you go to the big two. It's never the same creator to creator. It's always on an individual basis.
I agree with you. And like Scott Snyder, somebody who's very well known, it brings up the question, could he still be, like we said, if we allow them to go to Image, he could bring readers back. A lot of people don't read Batman. I mean, and do people pick because of the writer, or do they pick for the character? And I think that is the driving decision, or the big question, I should say, is how do you pick your book? Do you pick it based on your writer? Will you be the Snyder groupie and go to every concert and travel around in your VW Bug and buy T-shirts and go around the country, or will you just stay with Batman? When Jeff Johns left Green Lantern, for me, I mean, I got on board with Green Lantern, one, because I had stopped collecting, and then DC New 52 started, and I'm like, you know what, let's start with DC. The numbers are at 1. Let's find out what's going on. And I, went right to Snyder and to Jeff Johns. I love Jeff Johns' work. When he left, I stayed. I know a lot of people left because they will up and leave, and he went to the next town, and they decided to fall off the book. So I'd like to see what fans do. Do they leave a book because of the writer, or do they pick up a book because of the character and not necessarily know that it's Scott Snyder? I mean, I think that's a big question.
It really depends on the person buying, because like I'm that person. Like, I buy based on a creator. I look at the creators' names before I look at the title of a book. But on the other hand, there are certain characters or certain franchise titles that I don't care who's writing it. I didn't know Bendis was writing X-Men. I just know I liked X-Men. I did not know Mark Waid was writing Hulk. I just wanted a good Hulk book, and turns out it's one of the best books Marvel has to offer right now. And it's really hard to say, and I think it also depends on the age range, because if you have a teenage kid who's running out to get, Deadpool, who's like the most popular guy in the universe for some reason right now, I don't think anybody cares that noted alternative comedian Brian Posehn is writing the. Do they even know Brian Posehn?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, do they even know who the hell he is?
Yeah, does that even register to them? But I love it. I love it.
Right. And you know him, so you might even get some of the hidden meanings in his dialogue and whatever he's trying to say.
Or even more so, I don't read Deadpool, but the fact that Brian Posehn was writing it brought me on to Deadpool.
Okay.
Captain America, other way around. Did not know Rick Remender was writing Captain America. I just like me some Captain America. So
nice. Okay, so like I said, I think it depends on the individual, and like still out there is many, people might not know who Scott Snyder is. Hard to imagine, but I'm sure that happens. I mean, you are an indie guy. You are a very strong Image guy. There could be people out there that aren't in the business like we are, doing reviews and doing the news and the pop culture and comics, where they're just Image, and they may not even know Scott Snyder does Batman. I mean, it's got to happen. There's got to be people out there going, okay, yeah, it's Batman. I don't like Batman.
I think that it is more than likely the case that most people don't know writers. That would surprise me. I'm one of those guys. I consider myself a completionist, whether it be podcast, a music artist, a movie series. No matter what, I like to know what the hell is going on with the whole thing, and that's just me. I can't say that for everybody.
Right.
And I know for a fact that there are critics there are reviewers who consider themselves to be an authority on something when they don't know who the hell half of the big names in the industry are right now just because they're loyal to a brand. That's nonsense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Educate yourself. I think to us it seems ridiculous that no one would know who Scott Snyder. If you went to the average person and said, "Do you have any idea who Jim Lee is?" Like, I know a Jim Lee. He works on cars. Is that who you're talking about? You know, like, it's not gonna be the same. Like, even like Brian Michael Bendis, big name, huge name, but he's still, I know for a fact, you see him in his tweets and stuff, people still treat him like, I'm sorry, who are you again? Oh, you do that thing. That's great. You know, like it doesn't matter how we view these people. They can be our biggest idols, but they still get treated the way we do too.
Oh, of course. Sean Murphy just tweeted. He says, writers are the new rock stars over artists, kind of like what happened, the reverse of what happened in the 90s.
Oh, that's a good point. I really like that point. I hope that it gets to an equilibrium soon, and you do see certain books like that hit that balance, like Saga, like Black Science, hopefully like Southern Bastards. That's why I liked it so much. It showed that kind of potential where there was both an equilibrium on the art and the writing qualities. But I think that he's right. I think that the writers kind of get to how do you say that? Call their own shots. They get to write their own menu, whatever you want to say. It's sort of like a seller's market right now, and the artists, I think, are more stuck in their contracts than anybody.
I really do. So we could see Scott Snyder doing a Levi's commercial.
Damn, who is? I know. There's at least one. I think Mark Millar is one of those guys. Like he makes stuff that would surprise you. There's a couple of writers who do commercials. I'm having a brain fart. Most of them write for Avatar. Kieran Gillen, I think, is one of those people. You'd be surprised at some of the extra stuff these people write.
God, that's too funny.
You gotta make money. You know.
Yeah, of course. Endorsements. Get it while you can, man.
You gotta get paid. Some of my favorite film directors made music videos back in the day.
We're going to see Scott Snyder pushing Bic pens pretty soon because he's a writer. How obvious would that be? I use Bic. Is it because there's because the writers are kind of like the rock stars now? Do you think it's because our generation's growing up and more mature and looking more into the writing than just the 4-color panels?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Granted, sorry to cut you out. Granted, though, we remember these are comic books. Without the panels and the artwork, we wouldn't have comics.
No, 100%. They'd just be books. And I know more people still to this day that will say to me like on really strong books too, like it was just a little too wordy. You know, I needed more action and stuff.
Okay.
And I think we can't give too much credit. I don't think that is as a declarative state. Like, I say things a lot in my own personal life, like the creator-owned comics renaissance. I talk about that a lot. I think that there's this shift now where creators are getting more and more leverage. I don't necessarily think that writers totally outweigh artists, because without Fiona Staples, there is no Saga.
Right.
She makes that book 100%. If it wasn't for her facial expressions and the amazing characters that she's been able to create, it would be effective in a book, but I don't know if it would be like cultural phenomenon. I'm almost crying looking at a character dying on the page effective. You know,
right? No, I agree with you.
That's what that book did to me. For a few issues, like there were a couple character death scares, and then people started dying. It was like, this is ripping my heart out.
and for me, I'm artist driven. I'm visual. I have to see it. I mean, obviously the dialogue is important, and so are the captions. But for me to have it's a movie in my mind when I read the dialogue and the expression doesn't match or it's not heartfelt.
Yes,
they're just words, man. They don't mean anything,
it's a huge glaring problem too when it's off.
Yes, very, and it does happen, and that's either the relationship between the artist and writer aren't working out well. I mean, we've seen that happen throughout the years, and we've talked with some guests that's saying that some artists I don't work well with, and vice versa. getting back into the indies, what's Mike Sands pushing for the indie box this week, and just tell us what's going on with the indie market. You are the indie man. We are main news over here, so you'll inform me as well.
All right, big news in the indie market today, I think, is Star Wars Rebel Heist just came out on Dark Horse. They only have a couple more, I think it's a year left that Dark Horse has the rights to the Star Wars title, and they are starting strong with Matt Kent. Another, his name keeps coming up with me. He is penning I guess you could call it a robbery, kind of like action-adventure within the Star Wars reality. That's a big one in the indie markets because, like, it's an indie book, but it's a major continuation of a major property, so that has legs to sell. Another big book that came out today, Southern Bastards. You got Black Science. We've already covered those. But today in the indie world, I think the most unique book that came out is a book I'm not even reading. I saw that a particular artist, his name is Shaky Kane. If you're not familiar with him, he wrote a book.
That's a bad porn name right there.
It's a strange fellow, I must say. He has worked on books called The Bulletproof Coffin and The Bulletproof Coffin, Disinterred. Really meta, off-the-wall, filthy, dirty, crime noir stuff, meta-conceptual, like comic books, analyzing the events of comic books as they're happening.
Oh, no shit.
Really strange stuff. He writes, or no, he doesn't write. He is an artist who drops in on a series called Elephant Men on Image Comics. It's an ongoing that's been around for 56 issues now.
Okay.
Really interesting book in a world where the government figured out a way to make animals about as smart as humans, but way stronger than us. So they fight all our wars. They do all our police work. So they're not always elephants, but there can be. But there's rhinos, zebras, giraffes, stuff like that, just walking around in trench coats and army gear doing stuff. So that's pretty wild on its own.
No shit,
but,
really?
Yeah, really. It's really interesting just to look at.
Damn, there's another book on my pull list. You can't be on this podcast anymore.
So Shaky Kane, this really, really interesting, vivid-colored, absurdist artist, did this run of a book. I think it's 32 pages, really thick book. It's $3.99. That's not normal for Image. They usually charge $2.99, $3.50. So for 32 pages, it's sort of like a one-shot story of a detective named Detective Trench, who is a zebra with an eye patch, who is telling you the grisly tales of future Los Angeles and what he has to deal with as a evolved zebra grizzled detective. And it is really, really bleak, like saddest, like the bleakest episodes of True Detective bleak. And I was blown away by it, and I might start reading Elephant Men as a continuing series because of this one issue.
No shit, I'll have to check it out. Zebras always get a bad rap in the animal world anyway, so it's going to be bleak.
And it was really weird to see a zebra in a trench coat, like doing all this stuff one of the hard-boiled crime detectives does in one of those pulpy books.
Yeah.
But it's a zebra with an eye patch.
That's Nick Fury.
Right, it almost is like Nick Fury, but a zebra.
That's too cool. Awesome. I damn it. Maybe I'm turning into an indie guy here. Sean Murphy, all over our Twitter, asked, do you think that when DC Marvel do indie-style books, oh, I know where this is going, that it feels forced? Example, Hawkeye. He says hipster book. Now, Mr. Tom Obarski, if you're listening, bullshit. We've had this debate before about Hawkeye being a hipster book. But go ahead.
Okay, I think Hawkeye is a unique property for Marvel in that, like, it's the only one that's doing it the way that it feels very much like, Matt Fraction book, but indie style Marvel in a successful way. It's the one. I don't think it feels too forced, particularly in the very beginning of the book. I will say, in these most recent issues, it feels like the popularity has kind of overtaken the quality. Like, everybody likes it so much. We're nominating single issues where it's a dog called Pizza Dog, and nobody said, like, that's an Eisner Award nominated issue of that book, and I don't know that that's even the strongest issue of that year to nominate for Hawkeye. So there are things that speak to me, that have some legitimacy when it comes to calling that a hipster book, I don't think it's that bad. When Marvel does do indie stuff on their Icon label, though, they can get it pretty wrong. The best thing that they do, as far as I'm concerned, is the Criminal series by Ed Brubaker on the Icon imprint.
Yep.
They don't have the nuts to call it Marvel, and they shouldn't, because it's so bleak and sad most of the time. But it's like Sin City with no fantastical reality. It's just the sad real lives of
And
people.
no Jessica Alba. Damn it.
No, nothing pretty to look at, unfortunately. Mostly just bad guys.
Okay. Next question. Indie style, compliment or insult? And what is indie? I mean, how could you say? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, is it a compliment? Is indie the new mainstream? If that's what you're saying, I mean, that's what you're kind of saying. If Marvel's doing indie's where it's at.
It's like, to me, it almost doesn't matter.
And is there an indie style though?
Yes, absolutely there is.
Okay.
And I used to think, like, maybe there isn't, and I ask myself that same question, but then I read one-shots on Image Comics, like there's this book called Self-Obsessed by Cinna Grace, who writes Burn the Orphanage. He's the artist for Lil Depressed Boy on Image. These are very avant-garde titles, by the way. Self-Obsessed is the indiest book I've ever read. It's like it's not a biography written in a comic strip form from stuff that he had in his journal from like 2004 to right now. And it doesn't read like a comic book. It doesn't read like an autobiography. You have to read each page a couple times. It's not even necessarily like plot driven. There's just like thoughts on a page. That is very indie. I would say...
Can you describe then what you think indie is?
It's something that has the nuts to be very different. Very, very different. And I think when you talk about Marvel or DC, for example, Hawkeye is that book. For DC, I think that Dial H was that book for them, and then they canceled it because it was too good for them. China Melville was writing a very strange and peculiar book from a title that was an obscure run in the 80s.
Right.
And it was amazing.
Could we say Vertigo is their indie line?
Absolutely. Vertigo's definitely, and that's where you find DC's best titles: American Vampire, Sandman Overture. I mean, Sandman Overture is just, they left off, and just, it's still a masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with that book, period. Punk Rock Jesus, an amazing offering a couple years ago. Now they have Hinterkind, a book that's about personified animals in the jungle. I hear that's very good. Federal Bureau of Physics just got picked up for a movie. So.
Oh, very nice. Now, what we thought indie, I mean, you have indie creators, okay? When you think indie, you think garage bands, you think, you're in your basement making your books. You're thinking of guys that don't have publishers. Indie book for me is the Mighty Titan. Indie book for me is Unit 5. Indie book for me is the Accelerators.
Yes.
Saying Image is indie?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. They are not truly anymore an indie label. They are, by all means, they are the mainstream indie label.
They're the top three.
You want to go real struggling artist level? Let's talk about Ani Press. The new changes at Archie Comics, man. Yeah. Archie, the horror run, some of the best comic books I've read in a long time.
The death of Archie coming? What the hell?
Yeah. These are things, and then you have like digital comics only, like Brian K. Vaughan's The Private Eye. Let's talk, like, he's a huge, well-regarded creator. That is a genuinely indie book. It's a pay-what-you-want, digital-only comic book, as indie as that gets on a base level. So we also have Avatar Press.
That's
Press.
That's right.
Valiant Comics. They're having a resurgence. I think Exo Manowar is a pretty good book. The new Rye just came out. There's a lot of rumblings in I don't want to call them even lower tier publishers. That's so insulting to me.
Agreed.
They're just other publishers.
Right. I mean, we say the big two. I've stated for the last a year or so, I call it the big three. Image is coming higher and higher every month as far as the market share is concerned. Yeah. But I guess the definition of indie has changed through my lifetime, your lifetime, and
Yes.
within the last 2 years, even possibly.
Yeah. But I will say the very definitive line, the line of demarcation is, Image is still indie to me until they have toys and lunchboxes and cartoon series.
But didn't Kirkman just sign a deal, a merchandising deal, just
okay,
within the last 8 months?
that's another thing. Kirkman, the Image setup is sort of set up where it's a major publisher, but it's also there for every book like a Saga and The Walking Dead that's this huge success, you have other books that are dying on the vine within 3 issues.
Yeah.
And the creators, they have to go back to square one.
Right.
And they're not, and not just that, if their movie gets optioned, the studios can screw them over so hard because they don't have Marvel and Disney money backing them up for litigation to make sure that their properties not only don't get picked up, but get ripped off.
Right.
Outright and blatantly. That's what happened. What I'm hearing through the grapevine is that's what happened with the Image book called Revival and a show on ABC called Resurrection.
Oh, really?
Very interesting that they had these same exact plots, and that I heard Revival was being shopped around last year, and ABC was one of the networks that was going to pick it up. Now they have an identical show. I can't say that's official, but I can't help but notice that happened.
And it's very hard to take to copyright. Well, you're copywriting a book, but an intellectual property is very hard to copyright.
Especially when it's just you as a creator on your own living in an apartment with no lawyer money to back you up.
Can we also say a true indie is that it is creator-owned?
That, for me, is the first criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Do you own the property? Yes? Okay, let's keep talking.
And that terminology, Vertigo and Icon, are not.
Yeah, very, very dicey as far as that goes, because like Mark Millar is one of those guys that like he put out I think Kick-Ass 1 and 2 on Icon.
Yep.
But he's making all the money off his stuff. He's making all the dough off his properties. I don't know what he did in his contract.
It must have been he seems very intelligent. I mean, he seems to be savvy on social media marketing. He just seems just amazing. He must have had written something in his contract for that.
Yeah. Either that or Icon had no faith in him. Like, yeah. This comic takes off, you get all the money, whatever, guy, go do your thing. And then he knew what he was doing, you know? So it's kind of like a minefield. Like, I don't want to make too many like, yes, this is like an indie publisher, because like Robert Kirkman is an anomaly. Jim Lee is an anomaly. You have guys that stand on their own 2 feet no matter what. Todd McFarlane. They're like institutions within they're like REM or you know what I mean? Like
right. Yes.
Groups that used to be indie, but they're infallible now.
Right. Well, you know, the one I got a comment here that I'll get to in a second. For me, it was U2. Back in school, those were indie, dude. That music was great. Bloody Sunny Blood.
Sure.
Sunny, yeah. But then Octung Baby, you fucker sold out. God damn it! Now you're mainstream. Now I'm like, get out. You know, I love the starving artists, the passion. Not that their music wasn't passionate when they got Octung Baby, but I'm like, somebody else is writing, somebody else is now paying the bill. Now you can see the change. You're going mainstream. I got 2 comments here. Murph, stop blowing up my Twitter. Indie styles outside of mainstream characters and mainstream storylines. I don't necessarily agree with that statement. Walking Dead is not considered indie as far as I'm concerned. That's mainstream. Unit 5 in Accelerators is more underground and not so much indie. Once again, disagree.
Same terminology. I think it's the 2 different branches, 2 different twigs on the same branch. You know what I mean? Like, you might as well call it's not necessarily underground. You know, like you might as well call Ani Press underground then as well. They're just another.
That means
option.
They got a print press in their garage and they're selling it out of a trunk.
Yeah, or like at flea markets.
Yeah, that's not the case for Accelerators in Unit 5. They're in Diamond. Unit 5 is working their way into Diamond. I don't see them as underground at all. They're definitely indie. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
Well, absolutely. You want real underground. Google the Small Press Expo, the SPX.
Hmm.
We did an episode of that for Geek Girls, Nerd Boys. These are people making their stuff on printed paper, then folding it and stapling it
Oh,
themselves.
that's awesome. Now that's what I did in high school. But that's
I
still
mean,
awesome.
it's like zines. You
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
zines?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Those
Um,
still exist.
that's awesome. And that's its own market. That's the same type of market as the bootleg videos that you get at the flea
Exactly.
markets. And
Yeah.
there's a culture for that. And I think that's awesome.
That's truly underground. Like that's still you only hear about that from like a late 30s, early 40s guy. Like, y'all want to really see some shit? That's how you first start out on that vein.
Like
You
you
know?
like Jay and Silent Bob at the Quick Mart. Hey man, I got a book for you, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of indie comics and what's going on today, it's New Comic Book Day, but it's also New Kickstarter Day for our good friend Joe St. Pierre. He just started his The Liberator Kickstarter campaign, started today. Go check that out. Go over to Kickstarter.com, type in The Liberator. We'll have a link on our page. You've heard Joe on this podcast a few times. He's a big Spider-Man fan. We might even have him on again to talk about good old Spidey. But today is the Liberator Day. Check out the Liberator. Go over to astronautinc.com, liberator.com. It's gonna be different. I've been working with Joe on this in the background. It's based on his webcomic, but it's going to be a hardcover, like coffee book version of this. We're calling it the hard drive edition. There's some great rewards in there. Check it out. They're all so reasonably priced rewards. He's got some great shit actually on there, and go check that out. And you'll see more of that. You'll see some of our posts. Kickstarter.com. Type in the Liberator. Just started today. It's already got some backers. Started right off this morning. So check that out if you're into indie comics. The Liberator is pretty cool. And I'm not just saying that just because he's a friend of ours. Joe's got tough skin. I tell him if it sucked, it sucked. He'd get it. And we're pretty true to what we say here. But check that out. Kickstarter.com, The Liberator. Awesome stuff. It's New Comic Book Day, Mr. Sands.
Uh-huh.
What was on your pull list today? Oh, now we know Black Science #6 is.
Yes. I actually had a whole grip of books, and I brought down a couple because I got 2 weeks behind. Last week there was some kind of weather event prevented me from going to the store. This week it's raining even harder than it was before, but I was still resolute and making it to the store this week. So everything that I've recommended, I have bought. I am a man of my word. I don't just recommend stuff and then not spend my own money. So we have Southern Bastards, #1, Jason Aaron and Jason Latour. Elephant Men #56, still on the fence on whether this is a continuing series, but Shaky Cane's art alone is enough for this issue. One that I didn't mention, Manhattan Projects #20. Dude, if you guys aren't reading Manhattan Projects, if they make, because Chew just became an animated show.
Yeah, I just saw that. I saw that last week, I think.
If they are going to make more animated shows, Manhattan Projects will be next, and it is going to be awesome! Because you got Albert Einstein, Robert Oppenheimer, Enrico Fermi, Robert Fenneman. They're all chainsawing aliens and taking over the universe one step at a time, and it's just awesome. You guys, it's just awesome. What else?
Kind of like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes, absolutely like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but for scientists.
Nice.
Let's see, Mind Management #21, probably the best installment of that book. This week, one of the new buys, Hulk #2. This is a continuation of the Indestructible Hulk. Somebody shot Bruce Banner, and we need to get to the bottom of this shit, you guys. I love me some Bruce Banner because Tony Stark has always overshadowed how awesome he is and how smart he is, and the fact that he's like essentially now a brain dead child is very, very interesting to me. And all new X-Men. Damn it, this book is so good. And after last week's art issue, which basically had me, excuse the terminology, creaming my jeans over the artwork, I could not be any more happy with how these events are playing out in this series, man.
Nice.
I have some other titles. They're upstairs, but the names of them escape me.
You're
Uh,
I don't feel so bad. Your pull list is kind of like mine every week.
Yeah, I'm really happy with these titles, and I've gotten to the point where like I had some titles that were on the fence, but you gotta trim the fat at some
And
point, you know?
I have too. My picks or my pull for this week is on the mainstream side. Obviously, we will start off with Black Science #6, a little indie. Green Lanterns, New Guardians Annual #2. I am picking up Flash Annual 3. As a character, as a kid, I got into it. I fell out. Wally West is coming back, and through talking with Mr. Josh Epstein, the creator of CapusCrusader.org, who is a big Flash fan, I might jump on the bandwagon and see what's going on because Wally West is back, and he's got a black suit. So I'm going to pick up Annual 3. I might have to start going backlogging. Probably I'll end up having to pick up some trades to see what's going on with the Flash. All new X-Men, can't talk enough about it. #26, just awesome shit coming off the Trial of Jean Grey. Storylines, once again, amazing. As much as it is a fun read, I love the angst between the teams and what's going on, and always waiting for that next page to see young Scott and old Scott beat the shit out of each other or whenever they're going to meet up. Um, I, I can't speak enough about this book. It's awesome. Amazing Spider-Man #1. Yes, I am picking it up. Peter Parker is back. I don't like it. It's bullshit. They haven't told us anything about Doc Ock. Where the hell did he go? What is he? And what part of the brain is he in now? I mean, where'd he go? Is he just relaxing, eating mental bonbons? What the hell's going on? We need to know what's going on. And Avengers 28. Now, talking about trimming the fat, I have dropped Amazing X-Men. I have dropped X-Men, the all-girl title. I have dropped Uncanny Avengers. I have dropped Uncanny X-Men. I can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love X-Men titles. I love Avengers, but Jesus Christ, it's too many. I can't read a book that storms in 4 fucking books.
Agreed.
I can't read a book that Captain America is in 3 Avengers book in his own, and none of them coincide with each other. It gets too damn confusing. Batman. Once again, I only read Batman. I can't read all 5 Batman titles. What the hell's going on? I am reading Batman Eternal #4, which is a weekly book. This is issue #4 is coming out. Awesome book. I do recommend it. It is the only other Bat title. Yes, it's a Scott Snyder with a collaborative group. Awesome stuff. And it's going to shake up some serious stuff that ties in with Batman 0 year. So check that out. Trimming the fat, though. Thanks to Mike Sands, I just put more fucking fat on my pull list. Thanks a lot. Excuse me. It gets hard, if you can't get to your store, go to Comixology. I'm not a huge supporter of digital, but it's out there and it's better than nothing. Now let's talk about digital really quick before we wrap this up and do our picks. Amazon buys Comixology. We found out 2 weeks ago. I was able to get that breaking news on I Sell Comics with Mike and Ming. We talked a little bit about the pros and cons. More so now we're seeing that it's been pulled off the ISO operating system, and obviously there's seems to be pros and cons about this particular move. And some people are outraged by this. What do you think, Mr. Sands?
I think it's really interesting because I've covered the last 2 weeks of this event at Capeless, and I asked the writers, I asked a couple creators even, what do you think's going to change? My answer across the board was, I don't see there being any changes whatsoever. All our writers, even Chris Roberson, the guy that runs Monkey Brain Comics, we don't foresee any changes whatsoever. The week after, they are announcing that iOS not only got cut out 30%, I think, because they were marking stuff up. There is now like a second channel you have to go through as an iOS user to get comics. You can't buy them in app. You have to buy them online, then sync them to your device, and then go about your day. I do not think that's a good thing, because there's a lot of tablet readers, and most of my tablet reader friends are on iPads, And every one of them, their biggest complaint about iPads is, well, I don't want to have to do all this extra stuff. And it was just imagine as a podcaster, like, well, what happened to your podcast on iTunes, man? Oh, no, it's still there. You just had to download the podcast app. Well, it's a podcast app. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing for comic books. You're going to get that same idiot voice for, well, I don't want to have to do that. So, it's like, it's not good.
It's the instant gratification and the accessibility is the main reason. I mean, I don't want to do it. The less clicks it takes for me to do something, let's be honest, is the best.
Sure, absolutely. If I can get it right off the iPad, bing, bang, boom, thank you, ma'am. But I got to buy this online, then it has to download, then I have to plug this in and sync it. This isn't worth it.
Is this a push to move to their Kindle?
That's a question that I did not consider, and the answer most definitely yes. And it's a big F you to Apple too.
Yeah. And I don't mind that because I'm not a Mac or Apple person, so I'm totally against the establishment when it comes to that.
No,
but
I appreciate that one totally, because I'm thinking about going over to Amazon Fire tablet myself just on principle.
Right. And I have a feeling that Miss is pushing this to their platform. Part of me doesn't care. The other part of me, hey, this is big corporation. They can do whatever they fuck they want now at this point.
Yeah, and I think that this is Jeff Bezos to the CEO of Apple saying literally, hi, welcome to my world.
Flip
now.
the bird. Have a nice day.
Yeah, we own you. I don't know if you remember, but we own the whole cloud.
Yeah, yeah, right. Not just number 9, the whole cloud, all of them. Pros. Right off the bat for me, not the accessibility, but the library is going to grow huge.
Yeah, true.
Also, now I've heard Comixology can be a real pain in the ass for indie creators to get their books on. I feel now that you're part of Amazon, you're going to get an overload of people being able to now put their books on. Amazon is very accessible to getting new creators out there and putting the regular novels out on Kindle and online. I think we're going to see a huge insurgence now where the guys that were having a hard time getting on Comixology will now be able to get their books out there.
Right, and they don't need to Kickstarter. They don't need to do all of those things. If it does well in digital, they can just do well in digital.
Correct, and that will help them for a Kickstarter because print obviously is more expensive. But if you're successful through Amazon, now saying you're successful in Comixology is a very small cultural group. For only us that are in this culture understand. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Comixology? Yeah, that's great. You talk to a Kindle reader or a digital book reader going, what the fuck is Comixology? Right. Hey, but I'm on Amazon. You are? Holy shit.
And I'm in the top 100. Yeah. Oh my God.
Exactly. That now gives you credibility. Now with your Kickstarter may be successful because you're now part of Amazon. I see that as a huge pro for the struggling person out there, or the indie comic person out there. I see that as a huge insurgence. Downside for Amazon. Censorship. We already know Comixology put underwear on Miracle Man. I believe it was Miracle Man, yes. Censoring. Very tight on what's getting printed. We've had even books not printed on Comixology but did come out in print because of certain aspects of Comixology. I do not see that changing with Amazon. If anything, I see that even being worse. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago on a podcast. Nub kind of got on me and going, well, don't be one of those people where you're going to stand up because you're censoring art. Well, guess what? I'm fucking standing up and saying censoring art. Comic is art. It is classified as pop culture. There's museums about it. There's art showings about it. It's fucking art. And this is part of my DW rant right now because now I'm getting a little heated. Don't censor the damn books. If you have to, put a mature reader label on the front, which I strongly have always said that should be there, just in case mom and dads pick up a book for a 5-year-old because the cover looks kind of cheeky and nice, and you open it up and there's a guy, doing some things with a particular body part. Don't censor that shit. It's put out there for a reason. If you don't want it, don't buy it. If it says mature label reader on it, then buy it. Once you start censoring art, that you just open up a can of worms. You get into, 10 amendments. You get into the things that are just not right. Just because you're not Andy Warhol or you're a big, pop culture icon, and you can still stand up for yourself. Don't start censoring. That's the end of my rant. I think those are the only. The third con might be minor. I see them jacking prices up, possibly. I don't
Just
know.
about to say that's the only real con I can see is their control of the market now, dictating the price of things.
And if they raise the price, are they going to give the creator more money, or are they
Yeah,
going to take
yeah.
bigger portion? I think that's the other
Right.
thing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's a very good point. Because I know just from starting an Amazon store that there's Amazon fees for every single thing that you sell on through them.
Right.
They make a piece no matter what. So now that they control the market, can they just raise their fee and basically like an insurance company and tell you, well, we're the insurance company. If you got a problem with it, well, then I guess you don't have insurance.
But I think at the same time, as Mike Zapsik said when I brought this up too, was the fact if they raise the pricing, you're just going to force people to go to print, because right now digital is only $1 cheaper. And for me personally, that's not enough for me to read a book on my tablet or on
Yeah,
my
I
PC or on
I
my
agree.
phone.
I
Now,
totally agree.
if it's 99 cents or 2.99, now 2.99, now we know Image or 2.99 books or 3.50 books. But if the majority were 2.99, $2 cheaper, yes, maybe. If Amazon decides to do this, come on over to the new dark side and buy your floppy, buy your hard copy book, because I'll pay the gas and I'm going to the store. And guess what? Not only will I buy a book, I'll probably talk with some people, have a fucking experience, and holy shit, have a great time. Not only just a digital experience. So I don't know if they would really do that, but at the same time, I agree with you. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with this move. It seems to be more pros than cons right now as we see it. I think it's very pro creator, pro indie. Get your book out there, get your name out there, show it to the masses. More people use Amazon and Kindle than possibly Comixology. I gotta say that's true. Let's see what happens. And as we're talking about that, before we get into our picks of the week, let's talk a little bit about the happenings in the background. Mr. Josh Epstein has been feverishly working late nights on a particular website, capelesscrusader.org, and he has tweeted out, or not tweeted, but actually, yeah, he has tweeted in Facebook a teaser of the new looking website that has come over to Fanboys Incorporated side. We transferred the site. We're working on the full transfer, hopefully by May 2nd. Look for a new look and feel, new staff, more stuff going on. Look for fanboys.com to be changing as well in the next few days. By changing, we also mean that we've partnered up with capelesscrusader.org, Josh Epstein, Mike Sands, and the rest of the crew to give you guys even more fun, more pop culture, more reviews, more news, more of everything. I think with this partnership, we almost cover every aspect of the pop culture arena. I don't want to pat myself in the back, but fuck it, I'm patting myself in the and everybody involved. Everybody deserves a good clap. So if you're listening, clap for yourselves, as I'm going to clap right now because it's been a long process. And Mr. Mike Sands is a part of that. Why don't you tell everybody how excited you are, of course, but tell people what you do at Capeless and what you see for the future and what you plan on doing.
Well, I initially started at Capeless as a contributing reviewer. I was writing other stuff initially last summer, comedy, satire stuff, more about social and political stuff. And I was also podcasting with Tom Obarski, who's part of Geek Girls Nerd Boys, writes for Capeless. And he said to me, hey, I heard you do your nerdy episode of Tower of Sour. You're doing this thing with me. Why not try your hand at writing, some reviews and stuff? That way you could at least save some money on comic books, which never happened. I always buy my comics. And I just, I started reviewing stuff in January and have done so every single week, at least 2 books since then. And it got some traction. You know what I mean? Over time, you start getting some traction with the creators. They start retweeting your stuff. The articles get read. Eventually, Image put my name in one of their press releases with a quote line from me. I mean, obviously, a good review for any company, they're going to use good press. But the fact that my name was in a friggin' press release did feel pretty cool. So, like you start seeing the results of that work. And a couple weeks ago, Josh came to me and said, me and DW, we've been talking for a long time. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not know this. And he came to me and told me about the future plans of merging the two and having us work together. And I was like, well, that makes tons of sense. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, oh my God, yeah, that makes plenty of sense. Like, and it was really exciting, and the idea of us getting to expand, because at Capeless we had writers who were all we're all carrying the workload for the reviews, for the features, all the weekly columns, up to and including Josh. I mean, like, he started the site, but he does tons of work for creating our content week to week to week. So it only makes sense to expand the staff, lighten the load for everybody involved, and increase content output at the same time. So I'm super excited, because I like the fact that we're going to reach a point where even if it's $20, $50 a month, we get to say our writers will get AdSense dough, no matter what. Huffington Post didn't pay their writers, and then Ariana Huffington sold it for $1 billion and made all the money.
Yeah,
okay?
What the fuck?
What the hell? No one got paid except for her. So the way I see it is, I'd rather make just enough money to pay for a tank of gas, or if I'm lucky,
your pull list,
my pull list,
once a
or
month, yeah.
If I'm super lucky, health insurance, or if we're super, super lucky and we get to actually climb this ladder of internet content, we're paying our rent off of this. Oh my God. Like, that's pie in the sky stuff, but we get to actually make a run at this.
We have an opportunity at
Yes,
this.
we get to make
legit.
a run at this. Yes,
yeah.
And I'm excited about that. This isn't just a blog. This is an entity now. This is La Encantada.
All right. Stop making me nervous, man. All right, stop making me nervous. But yeah, I'm excited. If you saw my post a couple nights ago, it's a lot of work, obviously, on our end. Partnering with Capeless is awesome for the fact we do mainstream. We are a little raw. We do something different that Capeless doesn't, and Capeless gives us so much different content that we don't, I think, and we do have the same type of fans already, and this partnership just strengthens that. I'm totally excited. I'm totally down with it. The possibilities are endless for us. We could be soon the next CBR, the next Newsaround, whatever, or the better at this point. What we offer is different than a lot of anything that's already out there. And I think nothing against the other review sites, but I'm tired of the cookie cutter press release reviews. I mean, I don't do a lot of the indie, but there's been a few of the reviews that I'll read and I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. And whether or not it's an outstanding review because the book is amazing, or if it's not, it's truthful, and that needs to be more, and that's what we're going to offer, and that's what we do on this podcast. I'm going to tell you if I don't like a goddamn book. Why should I tell you that I love it when I don't? I'm not. Hopefully someday, even if Marvel decided to pay us, well, you're paying me to be honest. I'm gonna tell you that it sucks. And if you're not gonna pay, if you're gonna pull because I said, Amazing Spider-Man #1 was a pile of crap, then pull it. I don't care. I'm here for the listeners. People do respect what we have to say, and I'm not going to tarnish it. I don't give a shit about you paying me so much a month because we're fluffing your reviews. Screw that.
Yes.
I'm not. That's bullshit. Yeah. And that's I think Capeless stands up for that. The gritty questions, the hard questions, the real questions to ask interviewers, to do those questions that nobody else would do, to give out that news. That needs to be said. Fans need to be informed of not just the goody two-shoe fluffy stuff. Oh, it's awesome, buy it, blah, blah. You want to know. And I think you guys do an amazing job with that. And like I said, once again, we cover, it's like the yin and the yang. What Fanboys Incorporated does and Capeless does is a great merging.
Well, I see it as peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and marshmallow fluff.
There you go. There you go. I like that analogy. Look also for possible new podcasts coming now. I know you guys have heard me talk about a new podcast coming in April. Well, it's May tomorrow. Just things going on with Capeless in this partnership. This is the real deal, as Mr. Sand said. This isn't, hey, wow, our websites look the same, and oh, great. No, this is the real deal. This is no joke. And Josh Epstein, kudos to you, sir, for coming to me and pushing this politely down my throat and getting me excited about this and doing a lot of the work in the background. Kudos to you. And you'll be able to hear more of Josh Epstein tomorrow on a live Infinite crossover at 1 o'clock Eastern here on Fanboys Inc. But yes, I'm excited. Look for a couple new podcasts. We're talking I'm personally talking to a couple other podcasts to possibly come onto the network. As you know, producing, Mike Sands knows this. I'm the producer, the creator, the somewhat article writer over on Fanboys Incorporated, the graphic designer, so it does get daunting. It's tireless. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work to make these podcasts sound the way they do in the back end to keep up with the posts. I do want to thank some of the fans out there. I want to thank Mr. Sean Murphy for stepping in for Batman Week. He is our honorary DYK man. He's the one that gave you all the DYKs for our Batman Week. So I want to thank him for stepping up and helping me out with that, as he knew that it was hard to do the graphics, to do the research, to get everybody organized for Batman Week as far as the podcast and the site's concerned. So kudos to him for that. He's our like I said, honorary DYK researcher. So thank you for stepping in on that. And like San said, staff of 24, welcome to all of you. If you're listening, I know some of you are. Alex Smith and Logan are the two that I know right off the top of my head. Hopefully I'll get to meet more of you and know your names. But awesome, thank you. And like you said, we're gonna pay. And I think maybe wouldn't it be nice that Fanboys Incorporated / Capeless Crusaders set the standard for getting people paid?
Well, that's what I hope to do. And let me, I want to take my time to do a little, answer your question by doing some plugging of my own.
Go for it.
I want to welcome this new review team because I think they're some of the strongest assembled writers in the industry right now. Asif Bittner is one of my favorite writers right now, period. I'm so glad that he's writing for my review team. Alex Smith, Jesse Quick, these are all old staff members from the early Capeless days. But then we've also added Dave Busing, a writer and comic book podcaster and journalist in his own right out of Chicago, and Ari Carr, who has her own respectful, very large following in the UK herself. So it's like we have this very talented team of people that I don't see myself, even though I'm their editor for the reviews division. If I hadn't said that already, I'm the editor for the reviews division. I don't see myself as their superior. I see myself as their equal, but I just have to put in more work. That's all. That's all there is. And I am glad that I have people that I consider to be my peers on my team, because I don't ever have to worry about the content. I don't ever have to worry about their opinions being something that I have to edit. All I got to worry about is typos and featured images and SEO enhancement techniques. Yep. I don't have to worry about the writing itself, and that is so refreshing to me, because it's like you said, these copy and paste reviews for the industry right now. I'm going to be very frank with you and say when I first started writing 4 months ago, I was laughing at the state of the industry. People still to this day, there's a guy, I'm not going to name names, but you can find him on Comic Book Roundup. He shits on very popular books and then links in his reviews to his own published work.
Oh, is that nice?
It's the hackiest, most absurd shit I've ever seen in my life. He trolls reviews and then links to his own product in the same breath. It's like, if this is what's going on, then I think we're doing pretty good with maintaining our standards.
I agree. And, once again, this isn't a knock per se on the big boys. Listen, they're big boys. I think fans are becoming more intelligent they want in depth. They don't want.
Yes,
They don't want.
discerning readers. That's right, discerning readers is what I call them.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to see a review where you're just pretty much basically, okay, Peter Parker does this, 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 and this, and this, and it's by Dan Slott and Humberto
Yeah.
Ramos. Boom, 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 done. Well, guess what? I don't have to fucking read the book now. Thanks.
Hey, you know what I call them? I call them book reporters. They're not reviewers. They are people.
You get a D for that week.
Yes, that's right. They loved doing book reports in school, and they were really good at book reports in college. And for some reason, they think that that is what a comic book review is. It's not.
But at the same time, they get hits. Okay.
Because they're yeah. That's what it takes.
And that's the other thing. When the other thing that I've seen and talking with Josh, not going to name sites. I mean, we have in the past. If you want to listen to pods past, you can listen to a few DW rants. Oh, fuck it, Latino review. Let's be honest.
Sure.
Okay, Cosmic Book News. Let's be honest. You're hit driven, and I'm waiting for a particular huge news site to ban me from Facebook because I'm tired of seeing these articles come out with these taglines that. Are you kidding me right now? You just wrote this article and you've reposted it 7 times with these hook catch lines, and it means nothing. It's not even a basis of a rumor. I can't even classify it as a rumor. It's tabloid bullshit, and I'm tired of seeing that because those big sites ruin it for us and people who want real news. You're hit driven so bad. Get the hell off the website. Stop. I don't need, now I'm gotten so good at it. I look at it, I'm like, I'm not even clicking on this. And I'll say, are you kidding me? I've written on Facebook on these posts, and I'm waiting to get banned. And maybe they don't read it, which is another bad thing because we read all our posts here on Fanboys Incorporated and Cableless Crusader. And that's another thing that sets us apart, too, that we value fan reaction and comments, and we interact. That's one thing that a lot of the big sites don't do. I understand, we're too big now, we can't do it. Well, if you can't do it correctly, don't do it at all, and don't have a Facebook page. I mean, it's about interaction. It's called social media for a fucking reason.
Yeah. Well, CBR and Newsarama, just, the big 2 news outlets, let's say, it's like instead of news, comprehensive news, it is now, much like CNN, 24 hours a day, and we have to do the same to compete, to get our hits.
Agreed.
But what we can also do is offer what they can never offer.
News?
Real segments, like a real deal, like 60 minutes level comprehensive journalist. Well, I'm not talking about like the Rooney Brothers and stuff like that, but I am saying it doesn't have to be Don Lemon or Wolf Blitzer. Thank you very much. Now let's go back to Malaysia Flight 370. And it doesn't have to be constant rumor mill stuff. It doesn't have to be constant lip service to sell a book. Like, it never ceases to amaze me when a previews article has more words in it than a review does. It's like, are you just straight up selling these books for the industry now?
Yeah, are you getting paid? Are you getting kickbacks? Are you getting kickbacks?
Yeah, exactly. It's like your preview should be 1 paragraph, a couple pictures, and you're done. And the review should be like 8 paragraphs, analyzing everything. But instead, it's like the other way around. It's like they want to get you excited and sell the books. And let's not really talk all that in depth about how you truly felt about something, because we don't want to lose our jobs or ruffle any feathers. I hate that attitude so much.
But before we go, this is the DW Sands rant, brought to you by Fanboys Incorporated and CablelessCrusader.org. Do you feel, and I think I've asked Josh this off pod, doing these reviews, especially what's going on with DC having a hard time controlling their media and what's getting leaked and how they've pulled back from CBR, how they've pulled back on certain things.
Sure.
Do you feel that you kind of have to do these fluff and this kind of ass-kissing to keep the connections, to keep getting the press releases, to possibly keep getting, invited to special events? There's a fine line there.
Sure. What I think, personally, I'm the wrong guy to ask the answer to that question, because I'm willing to be that dude. And unfortunately, if you want to keep people coming back, you can't be that guy. You have to be, for some reason, Ted Turner is a maniac and he says crazy shit, but CNN still exists. I don't know how that's a thing, other than he had millions of dollars before he even started the network.
He's got shit on people. That's why.
Yeah, other than that, you really do. It's like you kind of have to be like this lip service thing, unless, like, if you're going to be the other way around, you kind of have to declare it the way that, like, the Washington Post as a newspaper does. Like, I can count on the Washington Post and a couple other newspapers, like, very few of them, though. Like the Boston Herald, where you can still find real actual journalism. New York Times, I don't know New York Times, but it's like it's a dying breed, and it's certainly not keeping up in the competitive market. But it's something that when you experience it, I certainly appreciate it more, and I retain the information that I get from those sources way more than I would a BuzzFeed article.
Correct.
Like, that's just, it feels like little snippets of information that means absolutely nothing to me.
BuzzFeed does articles. All I see are those stupid
lists, yeah,
polls.
yeah. Polls and lists.
Even though, granted, now I do some of those, because I'm the phoenix. That is my my fantasy animal, if anybody wants to know. And also, I was the shark. That was also the aquatic animal I was this week. No, just kidding. But I mean, I don't even see BuzzFeed in there, and I don't, as far as a reliable source for news. It seems to me, Mike, that. I guess pushing book sales means more than giving a respected review or a respectable opinion. I mean, wouldn't you?
That saddens me. That saddens me very.
And is that true? Would you consider that a true statement? That let's just say, because I don't think Joe Quesada's listening, or I'm not picking on Marvel per se, but let's say Marvel has teamed up with Fanboys Incorporated, and they're loving what we're doing, and then we decide to really bash the hell out of Superior Spider-Man 31 or Amazing Spider-Man #1. All of a sudden, they decide to say, well, at this time, we feel that our relationship is no longer beneficial on both parties, so we're pulling out, because they didn't like that I was being honest in writing about the story. Now, because obviously being a partner with us, they see our influence on sales, obviously, and informing our readers. But at the same time, I'm like, if I don't fucking like it, I'm not going to tell my readers or fans that the book is good, because now my credibility is shot.
What I think that boils down to is having a good relationship with your liaison between Marvel and you.
Right.
It's the patron-artist relationship. It's a time-tested relationship going all the way back to the classic artists. You have to have the ability to bite the hand that feeds you slightly.
Yep.
Like, give us guidelines, at least, how far we can go. And then, if we go past those rules, we need to be able to reconcile with our liaison. Like, it shouldn't just be like this monolithic, I say this and this goes. Like, what about a human relationship between somebody who works for Marvel and you?
Correct.
That, if they're willing to do that, I will listen to whatever they got to say and whatever. In the future, I will be willing to make adjustments. But if it's like this stiff, like, governmental bureaucratic system, I kind of like that brings out the Zach De La Roca in me. You know what I mean? I want to start lighting Molotov cocktails and shit.
Yeah, let's go on a raid. No, and I hope that changes, because I mean, I get the idea that you want to sell books. I mean, that's why you're in the business. That's why we're reading them. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just because for years the comic books are called the funny books, well, comic book news and reviews aren't just fucking fluff articles. Let's be honest. I mean, that's how I look. Our news is no different than anybody else's news. It's credible. It's credible to the people who read them, and that's the important thing. That means that you're insulting your fan base and your readership. And when I say they, I mean whoever it is, maybe Marvel, DC, Image, whoever the company may be that we're talking about. You're insulting the intelligence and the purchasing power of your fan base.
Let me tell you something. When I watch Game of Thrones or Mad Men or whatever, my next move is to wait 1 hour and then I check the avclub.com. Because kids now, young people, get their reviews and opinions from The Onion and the AV Club and Vulture and the stuff that the companies, Marvel and DC, they don't really see this happening. And right now, the young people are starting to listen to critics like the way that like old movie fans would at Roger Ebert at Rotten Tomatoes. And the fact that they're putting in an hour's length show this, I mean, they are writing like 5, 6, 7 paragraph articles like on the literary level, like finding the deepest level of meaning in a Game of Thrones episode that I would never consider. And it's like, not only are the kids going there, they're getting a kind of comprehensive review that they are coming to expect. If comic books want to be taken in that same vein, if they want to have their reviews held in the same echelon as movies, TV shows, and other forms of consumable media, well then, damn it, the reviewers need to put the same amount of effort into their work.
Agreed. And at the same time, the reviewers need to be respected. Let's be honest here. I mean,
they need to be held in the same echelon.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Yes, Mr. Epstein, nice 4-letter tweet you just gave me there, sir. Thank you for listening. As Sans and I are talking about Capeless Crusader and ranting on about this. And I think that's one of the things, and that's why I get heated in a good way when I talk with Josh. I mean, this is really like, this is the Capeless.org podcast. This is the indie team up. Also, Mike, you got a lot of tweets if you haven't looked. They want to keep this team up, so we might have. They're enjoying this team up, whether it's an indie, Marvel, DC, whatever this team up may be. The fans out there and they're enjoying this, and you'll see that on your thread when you look. But it gets me excited. I know that we do the mainstream. I know what we do here on IncCast, but I do that because I enjoy it, and the fan base also enjoys that. The purpose for IncCast and Fanboys Inc. was to give, how do I put this? To give an intelligent overview, but still have the real aspects of us. The fact that there could be beers in front of us, and there could be, we're just 3 guys hanging out where we're going to talk intelligently, but a person who just bought a comic book today can understand something that now we're not talking over their heads. We're not the stereotypical fanboying them and going, what do you mean you don't know what happened in Spider-Man 454 on page 5 on panel 6? You're an idiot. No, you're an idiot. Because that's what fanboys, that's why we're trying to redefine what fanboys mean. And I think Capeless is doing the same thing with that market as far as, hey, we're not stupid comic book readers. We're intelligent. We want to fucking know shit. We don't want to see, okay, Newsarama is giving us the standard review for Spider-Man #1. No shit, because I know what you're going to say. It's great. Really? It might be. But I want to know really why it's great. Or why
you feel that way.
Yeah, why it's not. Don't copy and paste the press release Marvel gave you, and boom, there you go. I mean, now I might be cutting a few strings here or for possible future connections, but at the same time, we've never changed the way we were for 2 years now. And I kind of have to. I don't want to speak 100% for Capeless. Josh isn't here, but that's my impression of Capeless. We've offered, and you've listened to our podcast. We offer the real deal. We tell you our opinion. Whether or not we become celebrities and big in the future, that's not going to change for us. And the reason we got to that level is because why we started here 2 years ago and what we're doing today.
I agree. I mean, I'm just as stubborn as you guys, and I think that's why we get along so well. Because while all, like Josh, you and myself, our ideologies do not always line up to be 100% exactly the same, we find a way to work together.
We respect them.
Yeah, and the best qualities of each of us can be put forward. And the same thing with this new team. I mean, that's why I value this new staff so much, because it's going to be so cool to see where everyone shines. Who's the writer that's good at this, and who's the news review. Like, we have a new film reviewer. His name's Andrew Johnson. He's going to be doing, I think his first assignment is Spider-Man that comes out tomorrow. And I am very excited to see how he writes. Because if he does what he does right, a film reviewer for the comics industry, we could have ourselves a new critic for Rotten Tomatoes and shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is a real situation. This is real life now. You know, like, and I'm very, very excited that we get to shake this up a little bit.
And Josh, I know you're listening. Not to give you a big head, sir, but kudos, man. Once again, I can't fucking say enough, man. Without meeting you over a year ago now, doing Infinite Crossover, if you've heard us in our beginnings, just like Mike said, sometimes Josh and I don't, oil and water, man. But you know what? By the end of that podcast, no matter how pissed off I am or how heated he may get, we still respect each other's opinions and understand the facts giving on either side. Once again, why I think Infinite Crossover is going to grow and grow and grow. It is the audio version of this partnership. It really is when a fanboy meets a Capeless Crusader. What you see on capelesscrusader.org's website and what you see at Fanboys Incorporated's website is what you get merged on this audio podcast. And I think, and once again, another driving force for us. And I know this last 25 minutes sounds like a shameless plug and endorsement, but I don't give a shit because you guys are here and you enjoy it. You're the ones why we're here, because if you, the fans and the listeners, weren't here, where the hell would we be? We wouldn't even have, and we wouldn't have this partnership. We wouldn't even be doing this right now. In the deep end, yeah, we're paying staff writers, we're doing this, but at the end of the day, man, it's for you guys. So,
yes.
Clap your hands and kudos to you guys for allowing us. And we're going to keep going as long as you guys are here. So getting into that, since you listened to us rant on about this, once again, kudos to Josh Epstein, the kudos to the entire staff at capelesscrusader.org, kudos to my staff here at Fanboys Incorporated. We can't wait for more to happen. Look for us on the con circuit. And I'll get into that in a little bit as we sign off. But we got picks of the week, man. We've done some soft picks already. We might reiterate picks for some of you late listeners because our listenership just went up by 4 more. So welcome.
Excellent.
So, Mr. Sands, start off with your pick or picks of this week.
I got to go top, cream of the crop. I normally, Black Science, that would have been my pick. But Southern Bastards, #1, is such a strong
Are you trying to force this crap down my throat? Because this is like the 6th time you've brought this up. You've got me. You got me believing that it's a good book.
Well, and it's another thing to me. I think I'm going so hard because I never gave Wolverine and the X-Men a chance. I barely just got wind of Thor, the God of Thunder, and Jason Aaron is really good. And I just now figured that out. And he knocked this one out of the park. If I had to go mainstream recommendation, all new X-Men #26, without a doubt.
God damn it! You took all my picks. That's okay. It's a good week. It's a good week, man.
Here, I'll tell you what. I'll go the other way. Okay. Get Hulk #1 from last week by Mark Waid, and get Hulk #2 this week.
Really?
Plenty of issues.
Hold on. Really?
Just adding to that list.
No. I'm being real. Really? Hulk #1?
Yeah, Hulk #1 by Mark Waid. As long as you are at least vaguely familiar with the events of what happened in Indestructible Hulk, which I think is now over because Hulk.
I think you can get that in a trade.
Yes. It ended. This is not a spoiler. The whole event is now being played on it. Who shot Bruce Banner? Somebody shot Bruce. And
wait a minute. How is Bruce and the Hulk separated?
It was like.
And I'm asking for fans to because I think some people, there was somebody that tweeted Facebook the other day something about what the hell's going on? Banner is not Hulk anymore. What's going on?
Banner is Hulk, but Bruce Banner was shot in the back of the head. He did not see it coming. It was one of those things where like you can't kill the Hulk because Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk way before we can do anything about it.
Gotcha.
So what they did is they lodged 2 bullets in the back of his brain, paralyzing him, almost killing him. And he's put in limbo.
So what happens with the Hulk?
The Hulk, like, in the first issue of Hulk #1...
So we get the Hulk in a giant wheelchair?
Well, he makes himself, like, I would say, yes, it's disabled Hulk, and, like, what the end shot of Bruce Banner with brain damage is like, okay, totally sold, because Bruce Banner is a genius. His whole thing is how freaking smart he is, and this series has turned the whole dynamic on its head. He's basically mentally incapacitated now, of a mental intelligence of a 6-year-old. So how does that work for the Hulk?
Well, it's not any different, is it?
Touche.
So Bruce is always the Hulk now.
That's all. You're almost exactly right, because, like, how does a kid react when you take something away from him? No, I want it back, and they start having a tantrum. So it's like, oh shit, he's gonna Hulk out.
No
You know,
shit. Okay.
it-
All right. Maybe I'll get the trade. That's revitalized me to at least get the trade and see what's going on with it. Never been a huge Hulk fan, so maybe that's why. I mean, I love the dynamic between the two, Bruce Banner and the Hulk, and dealing with all that. But after a while, this got boring. After a while, I'm like, okay,
it's hard to do a good Hulk movie and comic book.
bullshit. Wait a minute. Well, okay. I don't think it's that hard to do a movie, dude. But they've screwed it up.
I guess that's what I mean. It's easy to screw one up.
Okay. The Hulk could be one of the best movies. I mean, the catalog of the Rogues Gallery and the B-rated cheesy villains.
Oh, yeah.
Still, but to stay with the theme, I have to say that. Oh shit! What the hell is his name? Not Ruffalo.
Edward Norton.
Still my favorite. I don't care. I wish he didn't get greedy and require last cut in his contract for Avengers, because I mean, I like Ruffalo, but damn, I'm sorry, Norton's the best. He just skinny, played the part very well, I thought.
He was the best Bruce Banner.
Yes. Yes.
It's unfortunate what happened, and
Greedy bastard.
Also, with the Hulk movies, like the best candidates for the movies are so large scale, like Planet Hulk, World War Hulk. Like, how do you pull that off?
Those you would confuse the general audience because, again, Lou Ferrigno and that is still in people's minds. I mean, granted, so all of a sudden, World War Hulk or Planet Hulk, he's got armor, and there's this guy wearing Thor's helmet. It's got a horse head, and who's it? And why is the guy from Fantastic Four flying around? What the fuck is going on here? So
you can't put the piano music over that.
yeah, exactly. You would confuse the hell out of him. But anyway, I'd love to see it. The animated movie, I gotta say, one of Marvel's best, even though DC kicks the crap out of them consistently on their straight to DVD. But Planet Hulk was one of the Marvel's best DVD straight to DVD releases. One of my soft picks. Let's go for it. Since we're talking about the Hulk, check out Marvel. Shockingly enough, you're surprised to hear me say that I'm telling you to pick up a Marvel animated movie. But one of the best. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. Like I said, one of a dozen or many movies out there that they put out that aren't that great. Planet Hulk, check that out. My other pick is going to be Black Science #6. I'm on the indie kick. More so now, thank you to Mr. Sands. I can't speak enough about this. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, 1, 2, 3, and 4 I believe in reprints, or at least 1, 2, and 3 are at your comic book retailer. Go get it. You want to deal with Comixology? Go for it, man. I know it's on Comixology or Amazon, whatever the hell what are they gonna call it now?
That's a good question.
Amazology, Comic Zone.
Comic Zone.
Comic Zone. But yeah, right. But anyway, get it out. Get it on digital. I'm telling you, both Mike and I endorse this book. 2 thumbs up on this. If you're not taking it from me, at least take it from Mike. I mean, he's the indie guy. Before we go, once again, check out, speaking indie comics, check out The Liberator, Kickstarter.com and type in The Liberator. Check out Joe St. Pierre's new campaign. You're going to love this book. Rewards are awesome. And who doesn't want a cool coffee table book about a character on their coffee table? It's cool. It's better than, Cosmo or anything else on your coffee table. Get that shit now. Also, check us out on, as always, check us out on fanboyzig.com for articles, news, reviews, more stuff coming your way with this partnership. You guys are going to love what's going to happen. As always, check us out on facebook.com/fanboysinc. Check out capelesscrusader.org. And where can they find you, Mr. Sands? I would say hate mail, as I like to say with Josh, because Josh loves his hate mail. But love notes, posted, tweeted. Do you want digital posted notes on your Twitter? What do you like?
I am such a whore. I will say I want free shit. Is what I want.
I don't know how you're gonna send that on Twitter in 140 characters or less, but okay.
You want to send me stuff? I'm at themikesains@gmail.com. That is my official email. I welcome love letters, hate mail, opinions, solicitations from Kickstarter projects, whatever you got.
Address requests for free shit.
Yes, that too. But you can find me most consistently on Twitter, yapping about all kinds of stuff, both colorful and not, at Mike Sains. That's Sains. Other than that, Capeless Crusader every week. I do my reviews. I'll be doing Advanced Scout and Cape Watch. And you'll see my team putting out their weekly reviews Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Awesome. Really quick. Josh, no, I know it's not confusing, but you can't just say it's Gladiator in space starring Hulk Smash. The general public doesn't understand how the hell did he get from Earth to another planet. That would be confusing. I'm not saying that's not what we want here. Now I'm yelling at a tweet. What the hell? I'm live yelling at a tweet. Speaking of that as well, con season. Guys, Free Comic Book Day starts Saturday. We'll be live podcasting at the Comic Depot just inside Saratoga Springs at 514 Broadway, Saratoga, to meet all your fanboy needs. Come down and check us out. A lot of stuff. Obviously, free comics. There's going to be some awesome cosplayers. We're going to have a trivia contest with more Marvel swag and fanboy swag and a great all-day sale. Also, in June, we will be hitting New York Comic Fest in White Plains, New York. The guys who brought you Asbury Park Comic Con are now bringing you New York Comic Fest. Scott Snyder is going to be the guest of honor with many other awesome guests. So check that out. We'll be going there. And then next day, this is how dedicated we are. We are going to be driving down Friday, hanging out Friday with some peeps, going to New York Comic Fest. And then that night, we are driving home. Yes, we are driving home because it's the Albany Comic Con, June 15th. We are the official podcast of the Albany Comic Con, so we are officially now a podcast advertiser with Albany Comic Con, and we are guests, and we are also doing a panel. I'll be hosting again, moderating our Creator Spotlight panel, and we will tell you more about who the special guests are for that. So when you show up, please join us for the panel. To be a Q&A. It's always a good time, and so yeah, I'm excited for that. Con season's going to be busy for us. Hopefully, Mr. Mike Sands and I, before the year is over, we'll be able to do a con together, face to face. We could do, like Laverne and Shirley, just skipping down comic book aisle at New York City Comic Con.
Lamy Schlemazel, Incorporated. How does that go?
Yes, exactly. So we'll be doing that. Look for the Capeless staff as well, getting out there. Doing some floor interviews as well. Like I said, I can't speak for Josh, but we're fucking taking over 4 color pages at a time, and I think it's going to be awesome. And I think who's going to benefit most? It's going to be you guys. As always, we do sign off. So, Mr. Sands, if you'd like a closing statement, please do.
I would just say, as a closing statement, make sure you're buying comic books and not just buying them, but having a healthy relationship with the retailers you buy them from. And if you're going to do that, go one extra step and encourage young people in your life to read. If anything that I do in this career, I want to get kids reading. Get your kids reading. Best way to do it, comic books, guys. Think about it, man. That's my sign-off.
I can't say it any better. Peace.